Chapter 566. There were countless deep pits of various sizes. The originally lush forest no longer existed. Furthermore, this was because Xiao Qin was able to restrain himself. If he had not done so, half the mountain would have been chopped off. Ao Jiao, with the current strength of my body, can I barely execute Return of the Blue Dragon? Xiao Qin asked in his heart. Xiao Qin had experienced the might of a heaven-ranked martial technique. Back then, when he was a martial disciple, he was able to jump realms and kill a martial grandmaster. This was the best proof. Now that the five-nation youth competition was filled with experts, everyone had their own trump cards. If he could execute Return of the Blue Dragon, it would undoubtedly increase Xiao Qin's confidence. When the sky brightened, Xiao Qin returned to Dragon Sealing City in an excited mood. Boundless fatigue washed over him, and he fell asleep without doing anything. After some time, he vaguely heard knocking on the door and someone calling out to him, "Senior brother." His good habits allowed Xiao Qin to wake up quickly. Xiao Qin circulated his energy and his fatigue was swept away. When he woke up, he felt very refreshed. When he looked up, he discovered mottled sunlight shining in through the cracks in the door. He had slept until noon. He quickly got up and opened the door. Yun Kersen, Lu Suifeng, Mu Chen, Zhang Lai, and Morong Chong were all waiting for him outside. Unexpectedly, junior brother Xiao has the habit of sleeping in. "It is already noon, and you are still sleeping," Yun Kersen said with a somewhat mischievous smile. Xiao Qin felt somewhat embarrassed. Something had happened the night before, causing him to exhaust both his mind and body. Normally, he would not have slept so soundly. "Why are you looking for me?" Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Senior sister Yun, let's go. There are many historical sites and buildings from the ancient era in Dragon Sealing City. Let's take a look around." Before the Tianwu dynasty was established, Dragon Sealing City already existed. Normally, Dragon Sealing City was not open to the public. Outsiders would not be able to see its glory. Only during the five-nation youth competition would it open to welcome guests. Cultivators from all over the world would pour in, making this normally empty city extraordinarily bustling. Even the unsociable Morong Chong was prepared to go with them. One could imagine the charm of Dragon Sealing City. Xiao Qin was also a little tempted. He smiled and said, "Wait for me. I'll be done after I wash up." After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiao Qin followed everyone out of the courtyard and walked through the streets and alleys of Dragon Sealing City. Yesterday, when Xiao Qin landed first, there was not a single person in the huge Dragon Sealing City. However, at this moment, it was packed with people. There were cultivators from various countries everywhere. Many peddlers seemed as if they'd emerged from the ground, and they covered the streets and alleys like taverns, teahouses, inns, and stalls. There was everything that one could think of, and everything seemed to be bustling and flourishing like a piece of brocade. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Unexpectedly, there are so many people. Dragon Sealing City is larger than our Shiha city. If it is completely filled, there will be more than 2 million people." Yun Kersen nodded and said, "That is normal. Just think about the influence of the five-nation youth competition. That is a grand event of the entire continent. Furthermore, with the charm of Dragon Sealing City, it would not be strange for 3 million people to come." The group walked around the city, taking in the sights. Several historical sites from tens of thousands of years ago could be seen everywhere in Dragon Sealing City. With one look, one could tell that the ancient aura they exuded was not fake. Several of these historical sites were so amazing that they lingered on for so long that they forgot to return. There were even some cultivators who suddenly comprehended something before these ancient objects, breaking through a bottleneck that they had not been able to overcome for many years. As the group walked, they arrived before a wall filled with deep marks. This place was very popular, a large number of cultivators gathered here. It was unknown what material this wall was made of. It was pitch black and gave off a deep glow. It was 100 meters tall. This is the Coiling Dragon Wall. The wall itself is a meteorite from outer space. When it fell, it became like this. The marks on the wall were left by some ancient martial sages. There are spear marks, sword marks, saber marks, palm marks, and fist marks. Only an expert with true dragon chi can leave marks on this wall. Hee hee. This coiling dragon wall is not simple. The owner of the wall was a rich-looking merchant. He was currently introducing the wall to the crowd with a smile on his face. If any of you can touch this coiling dragon wall and last 10 seconds, I will immediately give you 100,000 medial grade spirit stones. The longer you last, the more I will give. For every 10 seconds you last twice as long, I will give you double the amount of spirit stones. All you need is 10,000 medial grade spirit stones to test it out. There was a huge horizontal line on the ground, blocking the many spectating bladesmen 500 meters away. They could only watch from afar. Is that true? As long as one can touch the wall for 10 seconds, they will give 100,000 medial grade spirit stones? That must be a lie. How can there be such an easy thing in the world? Several cultivators were tempted. They could get 100,000 medial grade spirit stones just by touching the wall. No matter how they thought about it, it was very simple. The rich-looking merchant smiled and said, "I guarantee it is real. I am an administrator of the Wanlong Merchant Association. I do have that much credibility. The Wanlong Merchant Association is the top merchant association in the Great Jin Nation. It is also the top merchant association in the world. It should be real. Let me give it a try." A medial-grade Martial King Bladesman tossed down 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones and strode across the horizontal line, heading for the pitch-black wall. Bang! Before that cultivator could walk 100 meters, his expression turned extremely unsightly. After taking a few more steps, he vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back. Such a mysterious phenomenon immediately shocked the others, making them feel astonished. This caused the hearts of the cultivators who were eager to give it a try to turn cold. They were no longer in a rush to make a decision. However, human curiosity was the most stubborn. The stranger something was, the more people wanted to know the answer. They wanted to test it out for themselves. Furthermore, there was the temptation of the large sum of medial-grade spirit stones. After a while, a few more people handed over their spirit stones and walked over. In the end, without exception, no one could get within 100 meters of the wall. They were all knocked back by a strange force. Their faces were filled with horror. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the administrator of the Wanlong Merchant Association had received more than 2 million medial-grade spirit stones. The smile on his face became even wider. Is there any other friend who wants to give it a try? This is a 1 to 10 compensation deal. It is definitely worth it. Lu Suifeng felt it was strange. He asked, "Xiao Chen, what's going on? Not to mention touching the wall, we can't even get within 100 meters." Xiao Chen muttered to himself for a while before replying, "The problem should be with those deep scars. I'm afraid that what that person said was true. They are indeed scars left by ancient martial sages. The will on the scars has not dissipated yet. Bladesmen have to face the saber intent of ancient saber sages. Swordsmen have to face the sword intent of ancient sword sages. Fist and leg practitioners have to face the aura of their respective sages. Let me give it a try." As Murong Chong spoke, he stepped forward and tossed down 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones. Then, he crossed the horizontal line and headed for the coiling dragon wall. Murong Chong walked the first 200 meters with a relaxed expression. Then, his expression started to turn unsightly. After he walked another 100 meters, he frowned deeply. Murong Chong did not stop and continued forward. After he walked another 100 meters, he stopped when he was only 100 meters away from the demon wall. 100 meters was a hurdle. No one had crossed it yet. When the crowd saw Murong Chong stop 100 meters away, they could not help but feel nervous. Murong Chong took a deep breath and placed his right hand on his saber hilt. Then, he strode forward, leaving a deep footprint on the ground. He had succeeded. He succeeded. This person has walked 100 meters. He is truly worthy of being a genius qualified for the arena battles, someone said softly when he saw the dragon-shaped jade pendant at Murong Chang's waist. I wonder if he can continue walking. After that, every step Murong Chang took was very difficult. Sweat covered his forehead as he inched closer to the coiling dragon wall. No one knew what kind of pressure Murong Chang was facing. The footprints he left on the ground became deeper and deeper. There are only 10 steps left. If I take another 10 steps, I will be able to touch that coiling dragon wall. Although it was very difficult, Murong Chang did not stop. The distance between him and the coiling dragon wall continued to shrink. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. "Paw!" Murong Chang suddenly shouted and took a big step forward. Finally, he arrived at the foot of the coiling dragon wall and sent a palm strike at it. Boom! However, Murong Chang only made contact with it for a second before he was knocked back by a formless energy. He vomited a large mouthful of blood, and his complexion turned incredibly pale. Lu Suifeng and the others quickly rushed forward and helped him up. Murong Chang muttered, "The saber intent of an ancient martial sage is indeed horrifying." Although Murong Chang was knocked back in a sorry state, no one mocked him for being weak. After all, no one had even managed to get within 100 meters of the wall. For Murong Chang to be able to walk up and touch that wall already proved that he was very strong. Following that, several more people stepped forward to try. Among them, there were a few who qualified for the arena battles. However, they could only get within 10 meters of the wall at most. They could not even touch the coiling dragon wall. The strange coiling dragon wall and the mysterious ancient martial sage caused more and more people to gather here. However, there were too many failures. No one dared to try it again. Interesting. I heard that the Wanlong Merchant Association dug up a mysterious rock from beyond the heavens. Unexpectedly, I found it here. Let me give it a try. A cold voice resounded. A blue-robed swordsman slowly walked over, parting the crowd. It's the Drifting Snow Sword Sect's Lu Xiaoyan. He was ranked 9th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Unexpectedly, such a person is here to join in the fun. The Drifting Snow Sword Sect's Lu Xiaoyan. Xiao Chen had some impression of him. Back at the summit, he had seen Lu Xiaoyan's strong state of ice. Xiao Chen had heard that Lu Xiaoyan had obtained the qualifications to be a seated participant. Lu Xiaoyan held a simple and unadorned sword in his hand as he arrived before the line. When he saw the coiling dragon wall covered in all sorts of saber marks, sword marks, and fist marks, he revealed a disdainful smile. You have already been dead for tens of thousands of years. Who are you trying to scare? Pooh! Lu Xiaoyan pushed off the ground and took a step forward. Then, he took another step forward and moved another 200 meters. In the blink of an eye, he had advanced 300 meters. The surrounding cultivators all cried out in surprise. They were all astonished by Lu Xiaoyan's strength. After Lu Xiaoyan steadied himself, his expression turned cautious. The sharp wills carved on the coiling dragon wall continuously attacked his soul and mind. Chapter 567. It was like Lu Xiaoyan had entered an illusion. With every step he took, he had to face several sword intents flying at him. He had to shatter them one by one before he could advance. However, Lu Xiaoyan's footsteps did not stop at all. He did not leave deep footprints on the ground like Murong Chang either. He appeared to be rather relaxed. Paw! When Lu Xiaoyan got close, he immediately sent a palm strike. Then, he closed his eyes and sensed it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 10 seconds passed in an instant. Lu Xiaoyan was still fine. Someone finally passed. I thought that no one could last 10 seconds on this wall. Lu Xiaoyan is pretty strong. It looks like he will not have any problems getting into the top 10 this time. As the crowd discussed this, another 10 seconds passed. The surrounding temperature plummeted. They could clearly see that Lu Xiaoyan's thin clothes were covered in frost. Lu Xiaoyan's aura also soared. Although he had not moved at all, it was like he was going through a life-and-death battle. His aura rose continuously. 30 seconds passed, and Lu Xiaoyun did not move. His palm continued to touch the mysterious coiling dragon wall. 40 seconds passed, 50 seconds passed. Lu Xiaoyun still did not move. However, his clothes had already turned into ice. The tall coiling dragon wall was also covered in frost. The surrounding temperature dropped even more terrifyingly. Everyone had to circulate their essence to resist it. What exactly is on that wall? Lu Xiaoyun actually brought out his full state of ice. I can't hold on for much longer. Indeed, it is very cold. Very cold. This won't do. I have to move back a little. Lu Xiaoyun's state of ice was extremely strange. Initially, no one felt that there was anything special about it. However, as it accumulated, everyone felt like the blood in their bones froze. They had no choice but to move back. Although it was clearly very cold, that wealthy merchant's forehead was covered in sweat. 50 seconds had passed. That meant that he had to pay Lu Xiaoyun 500,000 medial-grade spirit stones. That was a third of the spirit stones he earned. He could not help but feel the pinch. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and carefully sensed the flowing cold qi in his body. That cold qi was formless and formless. The moment it entered his body, it merged with his blood. Strange. This is the first time I have encountered such a state of ice, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Penetrating his spiritual sense into the blood, Xiao Chen carefully examined it for a long time before he finally found the faintly discernible ice qi. After spending a lot of effort, the lightning-attributed essence qi in his body finally dissipated the cold qi. Bang! After 60 seconds, Lu Xiaoyun finally could not endure any longer. The ice on his body exploded. Lu Xiaoyun was not knocked back like the others. He did not move at all as he said indifferently, the ancient sages are indeed capable. With a light tap of his foot, Zhang Xian flew out. The state of ice in the air dissipated, and everyone surrounded the coiling dragon wall again. They saw the ice on the coiling dragon wall turn into steam and rise up. The hazy mist made the coiling dragon wall seem even more mysterious. When the wealthy merchant saw Lu Xiaoyun leave, he smiled faintly and heaved a sigh of relief. 600,000 medial-grade spirit stones were probably nothing to Lu Xiaoyun. Remember to find time to send the 600,000 medial-grade spirit stones back to the Drifting Snow Sword sect. Consider it my contribution to the sect. Before the wealthy merchant's smile faded, a clear voice came from afar, making him feel depressed. The strange coiling dragon wall, the many failed cultivators, Lu Xiaoyun, who managed to stand for 60 seconds, and all sorts of strange things caused the matter of the coiling dragon wall to spread quickly in Dragon Sealing City. More and more cultivators gathered. Several famous demonic geniuses came to take the test out of interest. This coiling dragon wall was like a testing stone to test the strength of cultivators. Some people lasted for a long time, some only for a short time, and some could not even get close. From a certain point of view, this indirectly showed the difference in strength between the various cultivators. Qian Wen of the 8 noble clans is here as well. He also lasted for a minute. Nangong Ziyue of the Nangong clan is here as well. She lasted for 50 seconds. The Supreme Yi sect's personal disciple, Gong Yangyu, lasted for 40 seconds. Many people from the 10 great sects and 8 noble clans came. This increased the fame of the coiling dragon wall significantly. However, very few people could last for a minute. Sima Lingxian did not come. Of the heirs of the 8 noble clans, only the Qian clan's Qian Wen lasted for a minute. The others only lasted for 40 to 50 seconds. Murong Chong looked at Qian Wen with a somewhat gloomy gaze. It looked like when Qian Wen fought with him yesterday, he had not even used half his strength. Yun Kersen smiled and said, "Junior brother Xiao Chen, why don't you give it a try as well?" Xiao Chen had been tempted long ago. Furthermore, he did not lack 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones. After paying the entrance fee, Xiao Chen stood in front of the line. He looked at the coiling dragon wall 500 meters in front and smiled faintly. Ka Xie. Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. A sharp saber intent spread out and flew towards the coiling dragon wall. Dang! 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 Something strange happened. The spinning lunar shadow saber in midair seemed to meet with a divine weapon. It clashed with the divine weapon and resounded with metallic clangs. Xiao Chen's figure flashed. His feet did not touch the ground. He followed the dancing saber and quickly flew towards the coiling dragon wall. The saber's edge spread out and chopped down all the auras in the way. Xiao Chen flew through the air unobstructed and landed directly below the coiling dragon wall. Ka Xie. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber with a Ka Xie sound. Then, he took a deep breath and sent a palm strike at this mysterious coiling dragon wall. In that instant, there were flashes of figures. Xiao Chen looked around and the scenery around him changed. He discovered that he was in a desolate savanna. There were figures flashing in the air. These people all held sabers in their hands. A strong saber intent spread out on the savanna, kicking up a strong wind. An illusory figure appeared in front. After a few flashes, he turned solid. He held a large saber and attacked Xiao Chen without saying a word. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and placed his right hand on the saber hilt. He said softly, "Let me see how strong you ancient martial sages are after tens of thousands of years." A strong wind blew, and saber intent swept out. The grass bent over. When Xiao Chen looked around, all the tall grass on the boundless savanna bent over and prostrated themselves on the ground. That mysterious bladesman fought with Xiao Chen. After 100 moves, his aura became unstable. Xiao Chen caught hold of an opening and chopped it apart. Following that, another bladesman jumped out. This continued until Xiao Chen killed 10 bladesmen. Then, he fell to the last bladesman. When Xiao Chen's consciousness returned to the real world, he had already let go of the coiling dragon wall. He looked at the hourglass beside him. It turned out that he had already lasted for 2 minutes. After receiving the 1,200,000 medial-grade spirit stones from the wealthy merchant, Xiao Chen returned to the crowd. He said to Yun Kursen, "Let's go. There is nothing more to see here." How powerful! He actually lasted for 2 minutes. Who is this person? Why have I never heard of him before? Could he be even more powerful than Lu Xiaoyun? The surrounding cultivators were all astonished. They all started to guess Xiao Chen's identity. Bai Qi, who had arrived at some point in time, looked at Xiao Chen's back. He muttered, "What a strong saber intent. This person can fight me." After Bai Qi withdrew his gaze, he casually tested himself as well. His result was also 2 minutes. He was much stronger than the other disciples of the 8 noble clans. When the sun set, most of the cultivators on the coiling dragon wall had left. It was no longer as bustling as it was during the day. However, the arrival of a person caused the wealthy merchant, who was preparing to pack up his stall, to twitch slightly. He said somewhat forcefully, "Does young Master Sima want to try as well?" Sima Lingxian revealed a faint smile on his handsome face. "Come and join in the excitement. Let's see how long I can last." "Paw!" Sima Lingxian did not make any movements. His figure flashed, and he arrived before the coiling dragon wall. Then, he pressed his palm against it. After a long time, Sima Lingxian released his palm and looked at the hourglass beside him. He had lasted for 5 minutes. A strong self-confidence spread out from Sima Lingxuan's heart. He smiled gently and did not ask for the spirit stones. Instead, he left. 2 days later, night fell, and Dragon Sealing City was shrouded in darkness. In the courtyard belonging to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Jiang Qi and the other elders gathered Xiao Chen, Yun Kursen, and Murong Chong. The arena battles will officially begin tomorrow. The 400 people will be split into 20 groups. There will be 2 rounds of elimination. Each round will eliminate half of the people. The rules for advancing to the next round are based on points. In each round of elimination, the participants will have to fight 20 matches. A win will give you 2 points, a loss will give you 2 points, and a draw will give you 1 point. After that, the bottom 10 people in each group will be eliminated. Jiang Qi gave the three a detailed introduction of the rules and system of the competition. After the 2 rounds of elimination, the remaining top 100 will have a ranking battle. Only the top 50 will obtain luck. When the three heard Jiang Qi's explanation of the rules, they all had different expressions. Yun Kursen appeared rather casual. Although she cultivated a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, her talent was limited. It was difficult for her to bring out the full advantage of a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. Furthermore, she had not cultivated it for long. Right now, she was only a superior grade martial king and had not broken through to half-step martial monarch. If she was lucky, she might be able to make it through 2 rounds of elimination. However, she would not have any chance of entering the top 50 to obtain luck. Yun Kursen understood this principle as well. Hence, she was very open-minded and did not mind it too much. Murong Chong's expression was rather grave. He was a small perfection half-step martial monarch, someone who was neither strong nor weak. Originally, Murong Chong was very confident in his own strength. Even if he was weaker than Xiao Chen, it would be easy for him to make it into the top 50. However, after Murong Chong arrived at Dragon Ceiling City, he discovered that his vision was too narrow. When he was trying to become a seeded participant, he was forced back by Qian Wen in 5 moves. He could not even last 10 seconds on the coiling dragon wall. All this gave Murong Chong a clear understanding of his own strength. With his strength, it should not be a problem for him to make it through 2 rounds of elimination. Of course, that did not include getting severely injured the moment he entered the arena. Chapter 568. However, if he wanted to fight for the top 50, he only had a 50% chance of doing so. He would need to be lucky. As for fighting for the top 20, don't even think about it. Because of this, he was under a lot of pressure. This was also a time to test his mental state. If one's mental state was high, it would not affect the display of strength. In fact, it could even turn pressure into motivation. If a flaw appeared in one's mental state, one's strength would decrease sharply, and one might not even be able to pass the elimination round. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was relatively indifferent. He was determined and had only one goal, which was to continuously defeat all his opponents. Whether it was an elimination match or a ranking match, all he wanted was to go all out in every battle and defeat his opponent. He immediately asked, "Are the rules for the ranking battles out yet? Will it be the same as the knockout rounds and be carried out in groups?" Jiang Qi shook his head and said, "The rules of the ranking battles are different every year. When the time comes, there will be a last-minute notice. The main reason is to prevent the sects from finding out in advance and using some loopholes. Something like this has happened in the past, and the impact is not good, so in the future, the rules will be announced at the last minute after the elimination round." After that, Jiang Qi explained some other rules. For example, if an opponent admitted defeat in the arena, they had to immediately stop attacking. If Sima Lingxian continued to attack, he would be disqualified from the competition. It was the same for any sect or noble clan. Sima Lingxian was no exception. Also, in the ring, no offensive artifacts could be used, while auxiliary and defensive artifacts could only be worn up to 3 at most, and their grades could not be higher than intermediate. The resources of the large sects and the small sects were completely different. If they were willing, every participant could find a way to obtain a full set of peak mid-grade secret treasures. Completely relying on their secret treasures, they could crush the contestants from the small sections. The organizers would naturally not allow such a thing to happen. As for soul weapons, there were no restrictions. After all, a weapon would develop feelings after being used for a long time. If a swordsman or a bladesman suddenly changed their weapon, their strength would decrease by more than 30%. In the end, Jiang Qi smiled and said, "Man disposes, God disposes. Just do your best. Don't put too much pressure on yourselves." I am already very satisfied with your current results." After the sky brightened, Jiang Qi and the others led the Heavenly Saber Pavilions group to the Wind Cloud Arena in the city. The Wind Cloud platform was located in the center of the city. It was surrounded by a huge ring-shaped spectator stand. Many spectators were already seated there. From the outside to the inside, the audience stands were arranged in order of height to ensure that everyone could see what was going on in the arena. Damn, I'm late. The competition hasn't even started, and there's not a single seat left. I slept too much. I really shouldn't have slept in at this time. I'm going to miss the first day of the competition. How depressing. Accept your fate. I heard that the people inside have been waiting since midnight. They've been waiting for 6 to 8 hours. How unfortunate. This 5-nation youth competition is probably the most exciting one in the past few years. To think that we can't see it. At the entrance, several cultivators who were late sighed in regret. Their expressions were very dispirited. Xiao Chen and the others, on the other hand, didn't have to worry. They had their own designated seats for contestants, and people from the sect could enter directly. They didn't even need to buy tickets. After showing their IDs, a receptionist immediately led Xiao Chen and the others to their seats. After the group sat down, they started to size up the wind cloud platform in the center. It was a rectangular stone platform that was as smooth as a mirror. It took up several thousand hectares of land. It was very large. There was no wind or lightning. Aside from the wind cloud platform being smooth, there was nothing special about it. Lu Suifeng said with some disappointment, "This is the wind cloud platform. It is too inferior. Furthermore, it is just a flat platform. How are 400 people going to compete?" Hu Qi. Boom. Right after Lu Suifeng spoke, a strong wind blew in the platform. Thunder roared endlessly, and wind and thunder roared. It was like a vast army passing by. The atmosphere of the platform suddenly changed. The huge wind cloud platform slowly rose. After it reached a height of 10 meters, it was divided into 20 dueling rings. There was a small dragon pillar in each of the 4 corners of the dueling ring. When the dragons opened their mouths, they spat out 2 beams of light, purple and white. The beams of light connected and formed a thick barrier of light, protecting the dueling ring. Electricity flickered in the barrier of light. There was also wind and lightning moving around. This was a barrier made up of wind and lightning spiritual energy. Yun Kersen looked at Lu Suifeng and smiled. "You don't dare to spout nonsense anymore, right?" Lu Suifeng smiled embarrassedly and said, "I don't dare anymore. I just finished speaking, and you slapped me in the face." Jiang Qi explained, "That wind cloud barrier contains dragon qi. Under martial monarch, no one can break it without using quintessence. The 20 dueling rings correspond to the 20 groups. After you are split into groups, you can see which dueling ring you are in. We will be splitting into groups soon. Everyone, please make your final preparations. After we split into groups, the first elimination round will officially begin." The organizer of the competition, Dragon Sealing City Lord, Feng Shou, spoke loudly. He infused quintessence into his voice. Everyone in the large plaza could hear him clearly. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and rested, not thinking about anything else. Suddenly, he felt an extremely unfriendly gaze. There was even a faint murderous intent in that gaze. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and looked in the direction of that gaze. He saw Xie Ziwen, who was in the Evil Moon Pavilion seats, looking at him with a malevolent expression. Xiao Chen immediately lost interest. He could not be bothered with this person. However, he kept an eye on Bai Zhan, who was resting beside Xie Ziwen. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not care about him at all, Xie Ziwen trembled in anger. He clenched his teeth and said, "Damn it. I'll let you be cocky for now." The people from the city lord's residence arrived before Xiao Chen. After they asked who Xiao Chen was, they handed him a wooden token. The wooden token had the words, Group 6 written on it. Xiao Chen's name and number were carved on the back. "Xiao Chen, which group are you in?" I am in Group 3, Yun Kursen asked after she looked at her own token. Group 6. Group 7, Murong Chong also reported his own group. In the Evil Moon Pavilion seats, Xie Ziwen looked at his own token. The words, Group 6, were carved on it. He asked Bai Zhan, senior brother, which group are you in? Bai Zhan's expression was very calm. He said indifferently, I am in Group 13. You are in the same group as Xiao Chen. Xie Ziwen's expression changed. He had not expected to meet Xiao Chen so soon. He asked, are you for real? Bai Zhan mocked, what's wrong? Are you afraid? No, I am a little nervous. However, you will meet him in the 20 rounds sooner or later. You are not a match for him. When you meet him, just try to figure him out. Don't think about taking revenge. That will only cause you to lose even more miserably. Bai Zhan ignored Xie Ziwen's words and spoke to himself. Xie Ziwen was not happy in his heart. However, the other party was his senior brother, so he did not dare to talk back. He could only say, I will listen to senior brother. However, Xie Ziwen thought to himself, I don't believe that after cultivating bitterly for more than a year, I am still not a match for him. His victory back then was just a fluke. Chapter 569. Xiao Chen took a look and discovered that the referee had already walked over to the dueling ring corresponding to Group 6. The referee was an old man with a deep cultivation and a lingering aura. Even with Xiao Chen's cultivation, he could not see through him. The old man was at least a medial-grade martial monarch. He was definitely not an ordinary inferior-grade martial monarch. With such cultivation, he could easily control the situation. 20 dueling rings meant 20 medial-grade martial monarchs. With such strength, the Dragon Sealing City's city lord's residence was probably stronger than some of the super sections. However, Dragon Sealing City was usually closed. The city lord's residence would not interfere with the conflicts of the continent's factions. For tens of thousands of years, Dragon Sealing City had maintained an absolute neutrality. Hence, the other factions would not suspect them. Soon, the duels began. Group 6 sent out 2 contestants. One used a saber and the other a sword. They were both peak medial-grade martial kings. For these two to stand out from the tens of thousands of geniuses of the continent, they clearly did not cultivate trash cultivation techniques or martial techniques. Their fights were spectacular. Most people would find it interesting and would not find it boring. Of course, in Xiao Chen's eyes, this was rather boring. The two of them were 2 levels lower than him. Furthermore, their techniques did not give him a shocking feeling. After 200 moves, the cultivator using the sword knocked away his opponent's saber and placed his weapon on his opponent's neck. The victor is decided. Contestant 1 wins. You gain 2 points, the referee of Group 6 said calmly. After that, contestants 3 and 4 went up. This time, one was a peak superior grade martial king and the other had just advanced to superior grade martial king. The difference in cultivation was rather large. There was not much suspense in this match. After 50 moves, the contestant with the higher cultivation defeated contestant 4. Next match, contestant 5, Xie Ziwen, versus contestant 6, Zhong Liang. Xiao Chen was somewhat surprised. He had not expected to meet Xie Ziwen so soon. However, the two of them were no longer on the same level. There was no need to pay too much attention to him. Xie Ziwen smiled coldly and leaped up, flying towards the dueling ring. The referee of Group 7 pointed and a crack appeared in the wind cloud barrier, allowing Xie Ziwen to land. Zhong Liang cupped his hands and said, Xia Country 7 Fist Sect Zhong Liang, please advise me. Xie Ziwen said disdainfully, 7 Fist Sect? What small sect is this? I have never heard of it before. Cut the crap and begin. Receive my palm strike first. 1,000 flaming palm. Xie Ziwen shouted and pushed his right hand forward. The fire-attributed spiritual energy in the air immediately surged and thousands of flaming palms appeared out of nowhere. Next, it rapidly transformed into a giant flaming palm, which smashed down fiercely at Zhong Liang. The lines on the flaming palm were clear, as if they were tangible and possessed astonishing might. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. He said softly, "There is progress. He is now half as strong as Bai Zhan was half a year ago." Back in the ancient desolate land, Xie Zhiwen needed a long time to store up power before he could use this huge flaming palm. Furthermore, he had used it as an ultimate move against Xiao Chen. Now, he could use it as an ordinary move, and he could even condense it so quickly. In the past year or so, Xie Zhiwen had improved considerably. Zhong Liang's expression was solemn. He knew that his opponent would not be easy to deal with. He put his palms together, forming a protective yuan qi wall around his body. He went into a defensive stance. Bang! As the heatwave surged, sparks flew everywhere. Zhong Liang retreated more than 100 steps. "Let's see how many palm strikes you can block." Xie Zhiwen shouted, and a huge flaming palm pressed down like a mountain. Palm strike after palm strike pressed down on Xiao Chen. Zhong Liang's complexion paled. After withstanding 5 moves, blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. Clearly, he was significantly injured. "Lose for me." Xie Zhiwen attacked with both palms. Instantly, the 2 huge flaming palms layered over each other, doubling their might. Zhong Liang could not block them. Zhong Liang's protective essence shattered, and he vomited a large mouthful of blood before falling to the ground. "The victor is decided," the Group 7 referee said sullenly. "Xie Zhiwen wins this match. He gains 2 points. The first elder, Jiang Qi, said gravely, "He severely injured Xiao Chen in 5 moves. Xiao Chen has to be careful when he meets him. This person seems to be a disciple of the Evil Moon Pavilion. He seems to have gotten into the top 50 in the previous 5-nation youth competition." Xiao Chen did not refute this. He only smiled faintly and continued watching the next match. In the group competition, everyone had to fight 20 matches. The first round was based on the order of their numbers. Xiao Chen's ranking was rather low, so he appeared later. However, the following matches in Group 6 were not of high quality. Xiao Chen could not help but turn his gaze to the other dueling rings. Casually looking around, Xiao Chen discovered a familiar person. He could not help but fix his gaze on her. In the dueling ring 9, Duanmuking was currently fighting an intense battle with her opponent. Duanmuking was only a medial grade martial king. However, her opponent was a superior grade martial king, 1 grade higher than her. However, Duanmuking held the absolute advantage in the dueling ring. Her black hair had turned white, and her eyes were cold and emotionless. She held a slender sword in her hand. With every move, Duanmuking suppressed her opponent. She was like a machine. Duanmuking did not show any emotion at all. Her opponent was definitely not resigned to being suppressed by someone with a lower cultivation. She tried to turn the situation around several times. However, Duanmuking calmly found her openings and countered them with all sorts of killing moves. In the end, she lost helplessly, becoming the first person in her group to be defeated by someone of a higher cultivation realm. It turns out that Duanmuking has grown so much. Shifting his gaze to the left, Xiao Chen saw another familiar person, the Heavenly Sword Gate's Ding Fengqiu. After not seeing Xiao Chen for more than a year, Ding Fengqiu's improvement was very startling. He used only 3 moves to defeat a superior grade martial king. Now, Ding Fengqiu seemed to be even stronger than Xie Zhiwen. After that, Xiao Chen watched a few more matches. The weakest of the participants in the arena battles was a medial grade martial king. Most of them were superior grade martial kings. There were also many half-step martial monarchs. There were less than 10 great perfection half-step martial monarchs. As for peak consummation half-step martial monarchs, Xiao Chen did not see a single one. Look, the Nangong noble clan's Nangong Ziyue is going up. She got into the top 8 in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Xiao Chen looked over and saw a girl in purple standing on the arena of Group 19. She looked very elegant, and her aura was very otherworldly. Her opponent was a stout man holding a huge sword. Based on his aura, he was not a weakling. Gong Haoyu, please give me some pointers. The stout man was very cautious. He knew about the Nangong noble clan's reputation. After the fight started, he immediately took a few steps back. Boom! However, before the stout man could stand firm, Nangong Ziyue sent him sprawling with a palm strike. He did not even see how she attacked. How powerful! She actually used only one palm strike to defeat her opponent. That Gong Haoyu is not weak either. He was also in the top 50 in the previous 5-nation youth competition. However, it feels like they are on completely different levels. The Nangong noble clan's people truly live up to their reputation. I wonder if she can get into the top 5 this time. Everyone had guessed that Nangong Ziyue would win. However, they had not expected her to win so easily. Indeed, the geniuses in the top 10 were not people that ordinary geniuses could compare to. Xiao Chen saw it clearly but did not care too much. While Nangong Ziyue was very strong, she was not a match for him. Xiao Chen's true opponents were Sima Lingxian and Shenyuan Zhantian. If he wanted to add more, the mysterious Chu Chaoyun could be counted in as well. Next match, contestant number 19, Xiao Chen, versus contestant number 20, Huang Chang. It was finally Xiao Chen's turn to fight in Group 17. Xiao Chen withdrew his aura from the arena, preventing others from knowing how strong he was. He performed a cupped fist salute and the match began. He. Thank you for giving me 2 points. Xiao Chen's opponent, Huang Chang, was a swordsman. He was also a half-step martial monarch. He pointed his sword at Xiao Chen, not caring about him at all. Huang Chang has not even comprehended sword intent, yet he dares to boast like this. Xiao Chen was speechless. Xiao Chen stepped forward and his figure flickered. He circulated his vital qi quickly and his bones crackled. In that instant, Xiao Chen felt a boundless vital qi spread throughout his body. He shouted, breaking armor. Seizing the heart. Xiao Chen clenched his right fist and formed a sharp azure shockwave. He easily tore apart his opponent's continuous stream of sword attacks. Seizing the heart claw. Xiao Chen's 5 fingers turned into a claw. The transition between a fist and a claw was very smooth, not unnatural at all. Before Xiao Chen's opponent's horrified gaze, Xiao Chen's 5 fingers tore through his protective essence and stabbed into his chest. Xiao Chen did not manage to grab the heart. He pulled his hand back and slapped Xiao Chen's chest with the back of his hand. A huge force slammed Xiao Chen into the barrier of the arena. With 1 punch and 1 claw, Xiao Chen easily defeated his opponent. The fist was the breaking armor fist, specialized in breaking defenses. The claw was the seizing the heart claw. It was as hard as frost iron and as hard as steel. 1 claw could break the heart. The referee of Group 6 was secretly astonished. The battle in the arena had ended abnormally fast. Others could not determine the cultivations of the two. However, the referee could clearly tell that they were both small perfection half-step martial monarchs. There was not much of a difference between them. Originally, the referee thought that Xie Ziwen would be the champion of Group 6. However, it looked like there was an additional variable. This Xiao Chen was definitely not weaker than Xie Ziwen. Number 19, Xiao Chen wins. You have 2 points. After the referee announced the results, he gave Xiao Chen a deep look. This youth might be even stronger than he thought. In a spectator stand on the east side of the spectator stands, 10 youths leisurely watched the battles on the 20 arenas. These 10 people were the seeded participants of this 5-nation youth competition. They were qualified to skip the first round of elimination. The first seeded participant, Sima Lingxian, could skip 2 rounds of elimination and directly enter the ranking battles. The only female among the seeded participants was Yu Chenxi. She was very eye-catching among the 10. In the past, the 8 noble clans had 8 seeded participants. The remaining 2 spots were reserved for the 10 great sections. However, in this 5-nation youth competition, there were 3 spots for the 10 great sects: the Supreme sects Gong Yangyu, the Drifting Snow Sword sects Lu Xiaoyun, and the Haotian sects Yu Chenxi. When Yu Chenxi saw Xiao Chen defeat his opponent in 2 moves, a bright light flashed in her eyes. She revealed a brilliant smile on her pretty face. "Xiao Chen, you did not disappoint me. This time, you should be able to make me use my full power." Chapter 570. The first round of the competition continued. On the first day, every participant had to fight 20 matches. Aside from strength, such high-intensity matches were a test of the participants' ability to withstand pressure. After Yun Kersen finished a match, she walked back and looked at Xiao Chen. She smiled and said, "Xiao Chen, how many matches have you fought? How are the results?" Before Xiao Chen could reply, Lu Suifeng interrupted, He has won all 5 matches. Furthermore, he did not even draw his saber, just like senior sister Yun. Yun Kersen smiled and said, "Mine was purely luck. Furthermore, it was not an easy victory. However, there are not many experts in our group. As long as I do not lose 5 matches, I will be able to qualify." In the first round of elimination, the seeded participants did not appear. Hence, many of the groups did not have any peak experts. This was the case for Xiao Chen's Group 6 and Yun Kersen's Group 3. However, there were also some death groups. There were many veteran experts like Bai Zhan in those groups. There were also heaven-defying people like Shenyuan Zhantian and Nangong Ziyue. Being placed in such a group was a tragedy for ordinary participants. It was unfortunate that Murong Chong was placed in such a group. Lu Suifeng said softly, "Murong Chong is back. He lost another match. Now, he has lost 2 matches." After Murong Chong returned, he saw Xiao Chen and Yun Kersen. He could not help but smile bitterly. "I really want to switch groups with you too. The experts in my group are too monstrous." Seeing Murong Chong being so casual, Xiao Chen knew that he had let go of his worries. He said, "Your strength is definitely not weak. In the eyes of others, you are very difficult to deal with. As long as you perform as you normally do, you will definitely be able to clear the first round." Murong Chong said sullenly, "I understand. Let's work hard together and do our best to enter the ranking matches." Yun Kersen nodded and said, "Definitely." Mu Chen and the others also smiled and said, "I wish you all success. Bring glory to our Heavenly Saber Pavilion." When the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's first elder, Jiang Qi, saw this scene, he revealed a joyful smile and nodded slightly. Next battle, Kim Tae-ho vs Ling Feng. On the 15th group's arena, the old judge said in a low voice, "That can't be. This fatso is also participating in the 5-nation youth competition. With his strength, he dares to come without any secret treasures?" Lu Suifeng laughed loudly and said, "This fellow, to think that he is not embarrassed to go on stage dressed like that." Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with suspicion as he looked over with interest. He was very interested in how strong Fatso was. "I am the Evil Moon Pavilion's Ling Feng. Please enlighten me." Ling Feng cupped his hands and bowed. Kim Tae-ho was dressed in jewelry and held a golden folding fan in his right hand. He smiled and said, "The Evil Moon Pavilion is a super large sect. Little brother, how about letting this fat lord make a move or two first? You're extraordinarily handsome and have a mighty aura. You're also a popular contender for the top 10. Furthermore, you're from a super large sect. You can just let this fat lord have a few moves, right?" The disciples of a large sect were all prideful. When Ling Feng heard the other party's flattery, he felt somewhat smug. However, Ling Feng maintained a serious expression. He smiled gently and said, "That's fine. I don't mind letting you make a move or two. Make your move." It was just 2 moves, it would be over very quickly. Ling Feng still had that much confidence. Kim Tae-ho chuckled and gave Ling Feng a thumbs up. He said, "You are bold. A large sect is indeed a large sect. No wonder you dare to say that you will fight for the top 10. This fat lord is coming. Bang! 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 Fatso's waist was fat and his legs were thick. Even if he did not weigh 200 tons, he weighed at least 178 tons. As he ran, his fat jiggled. The dueling ring did not seem to be able to withstand his weight. Ling Feng found this very comical. He found it funny in his heart. How did such a person clear the first stage? Amidst the comical footsteps, Kim Tae-ho arrived 20 meters before Ling Feng. Like he said, Ling Feng did not show any signs of making a move, allowing Fatso to approach. When Ling Feng was 10 meters away, Kim Tae-ho's speed suddenly increased by 5 or 6 times. He left a fat afterimage in the air, dazzling everyone. Kim Tae-ho put away his folding fan and flipped his right palm. A golden coffin lid appeared in his hands from his spatial ring. Hee hee. Eat this fat lord's coffin lid. Ling Feng felt a sense of danger for some reason. Just as he was about to draw his weapon, the world around him suddenly started spinning. The laws of heaven and earth actually changed. Paw! There was a heavy sound as the coffin lid, which was unknown how heavy, smashed into the Evil Moon Pavilion elite disciple's body. It was unknown how much force Kim Tae-ho used, but after this heavy strike, Ling Feng immediately fell to the ground, unable to get up again. 1 second ago, the crowd was still staring at Kim Tae-ho's comical movement technique. 1 second later, the situation in the dueling ring reversed. Kim Tae-ho put the coffin lid back into his spatial ring. Then, he opened his glittering folding fan with a "shio" sound. When he started fanning himself, Kim Tae-ho shook his head and sighed, "You are just trash. To think that you dare to say that you will fight for the top 10. The youths these days are getting more and more arrogant. They do not know how to be humble at all." The Evil Moon Pavilion's elders nearly vomited blood when they saw Xiao Chen's serious expression. Those words were clearly said by Fatso. However, when it came out of his mouth, it became the Evil Moon Pavilion disciple being arrogant and ignorant, so he taught him a lesson. Disciples of the Evil Moon Pavilion, if you meet this person again, don't say anything. Just cripple him or beat him to death, the Evil Moon Pavilion's inner sect first elder said angrily. Kim Tae-ho wins. 2 points. The referee of Group 15 was somewhat speechless, but he still announced the results. Kim Tae-ho put away his folding fan and chuckled. Then, he turned his head and waved to the crowd, "Thank you, everyone, for your support. This fat lord will continue fighting. I am the young master of the Golden Rock Merchant Association. If you want to do business in the future, you can come and look for me. I will give you a 20% discount." Before leaving, Kim Tae-ho did not forget to advertise his merchant association. It was as though everything was a matter of course. This Fatso's skin is extraordinarily thick. Too shameless. The Evil Moon Pavilion's people are probably crying. The cultivators and the spectator stands all cursed and laughed. They felt that the Evil Moon Pavilion's people did not deserve this. When Xiao Chen saw this scene, he could not help but laugh hoarsely. However, this was indeed Fatso's true colors. If he was not shameless, he would not be Kim Tae-ho. After the matches of Group 6 ended, the referee immediately said, "Next match, Xiao Chen vs Xie Ziwen." Bai Zhan looked at the eager Xie Ziwen and said, "Remember what I said. Just move around and test his strength. After that, just take the initiative to admit defeat." Xie Ziwen was extremely unconvinced. He gave a casual reply and eagerly flew towards the arena. Xie Ziwen was a genius disciple of the Evil Moon Pavilion, second only to Bai Zhan. He was ranked 47th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. He was considered an expert in Group 6. As for Xiao Chen, he was the rising star of Group 6. He had fought 5 matches in a row and won them all. Furthermore, they were all overwhelming victories. In the eyes of the spectators, the match between the two was a battle between the strong. It attracted the attention of many people. In the wind cloud platform, Xie Ziwen looked at Xiao Chen with a sullen expression. He said in a cold voice, "Xiao Chen, remember what I said back then? Sooner or later, I will trample on you in front of everyone." Xiao Chen took out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring and smiled. "I'm afraid I will have to disappoint you." If Xiao Chen continued to use his fists and feet to deal with Xie Ziwen, he would waste a lot of time. So, he intended to end this match quickly. Hence, he no longer had any thoughts of hiding his strength. There is no point in saying so much. Make your move. You should feel honored that you have successfully forced me to take out the lunar shadow saber. Several cultivators in the spectator stands were astonished. In the earlier matches, Xiao Chen had only used his fists and feet to deal with his physical body. The strong combat prowess that Xiao Chen displayed was already shocking enough. They did not expect that his fists and feet were only supplementary attacks. His true identity as a bladesman was his true identity. This Xiao Chen really hid his strength very deeply. 2 points are deducted for each defeat in the arena. He is rather courageous. It looks like there will be a newcomer in Group 6 as well. Ha. Let's wait until he defeats Xie Ziwen first. If he loses, he will not be that strong. The cultivators paying attention to Group 6 discussed in soft voices. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen had hidden his strength. This made the crowd feel even more anticipation for this match. Seeing that Xiao Chen was looking down on him, Xie Ziwen was so angry that he laughed instead. He said, Good. Let's see if you dare to continue being arrogant later." 1,000 flaming palms. Xie Ziwen shouted ferociously. All the fire-attributed spiritual energy in the vast wind cloud platform instantly surged. Sparks leaped around the arena. Xie Ziwen pushed his right palm forward, and the sparks instantly gathered, forming a huge palm with clear lines. It was like a mountain, carrying a boundless might as it pressed down on Xiao Chen. With this move, no one had been able to receive more than 10 moves from Xie Ziwen. This showed how strong this move was. Ka Xie. Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber, and a purple light flickered. The solid flaming palm instantly split in half before turning into countless sparks. Xiao Chen easily broke the 1,000 flaming palms with one saber strike. There was no difficulty at all. Damn it! Xie Ziwen's expression turned slightly unsightly. He had not expected Xiao Chen to break his move so easily. His figure flickered in the air without any pattern. Instantly, many flaming palms filled the air, pressing down on Xiao Chen from all directions. At a glance, the vast wind cloud platform was filled with flaming palms. The scene looked very majestic. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm as he moved through the flaming palms like he was taking a leisurely stroll. As he brandished his saber, it was like a heavenly steed soaring through the air. He attacked casually. The saber moved with his heart, and the person moved with the saber. Like moving clouds and flowing water, he chopped those terrifying flaming palms into sparks. The Group 6 referee's pupils constricted slightly. He thought to himself, what a wondrous state. This fellow's saber techniques seem to have reached the level of heaven's perception. Xiao Chen said indifferently, Xie Ziwen, if this is all you are capable of, then don't come out and embarrass yourself. As you wish. Xie Ziwen's expression sank. He had not expected the martial technique that he had worked so hard to comprehend to be insufficient in the eyes of Xiao Chen, forcing him to use his trump card in advance. Rage of 10,000 flames. Roar! Suddenly, the thousands of flames in the arena trembled intensely. It was like angry cultivators had developed emotions. When the trembling sounds rang out, it gave off the feeling of a fire god shouting. Rage, berserk, dissatisfaction, and various other emotions spread out. Xie Ziwen had actually infused his own emotions into the state of fire. Chapter 571. Ha. Xiao Chen, do you feel my rage? I have to thank you. Without you, I would not have been able to comprehend such a strong martial technique. Rage, my flame. Bang! In an instant, the rage in the crowd reached its peak. Suddenly, a flaming arm appeared on the ground. This arm was 100 meters long. The moment it appeared, it covered half the sky. Xiao Chen's slender body became very small before that flaming arm. He was like an ant that could be smashed to death with one slap. The huge palm carried an overwhelming rage as it smashed down at Xiao Chen at lightning speed. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. His heart was as calm as still water, without any ripples. The purple crystalline chi whirlpool in his body spun wildly. As the peak state of thunder surged out, the purple crystalline saber chi turned into a purple crystalline saber chi. The long purple crystalline saber chi was as thin as a cicada's wing. It flashed in the air and chopped the arm that came out of the ground in half. The crystalline saber chi did not lose any momentum as it flew toward Xie Ziwen. There was a loud bang as the saber chi shattered Xie Ziwen's protective essence. Countless bolts of lightning exploded out, blasting Xie Ziwen beyond recognition. With a piu-tong sound, he fell from the sky. Ka Xie. After defeating Xie Ziwen in one move, Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. The remnant flames and lightning in the air instantly mixed together and exploded. Purple and red waves of chi enveloped the entire stage with a swoosh. From afar, it looked demonic and beautiful. When the shockwaves scattered and the light disappeared, a calm bladesman stood in the center of the dueling ring. He did not look sad or happy, arrogant or rash. The cool breeze generated by the shockwaves blew at Xiao Chen's clothes, matching Xiao Chen's calm expression. At this moment, Xiao Chen gave off an ethereal and distant aura, appearing carefree and at ease. Xiao Chen wins. You gain another 2 points. The referee of Group 6 suppressed his excitement as he announced the results. A true newcomer had finally appeared in Group 6, it was no longer a trashy group. As the referee, he could at least be a little satisfied. Damn! Is there a mistake? He killed Xie Ziwen in one move. What exactly is the background of this white-robed bladesman? No matter what, Xie Ziwen obtained the 49th rank in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Could it be that this person can get into the top 20? From the looks of it, he hasn't used his full strength yet. I wonder how much of his strength he has used. At least 70%. Otherwise, it would be too terrifying. The warriors who had been paying attention to Xiao Chen's match were in an uproar. They had not expected such an ending. In the first half of the match, Xie Ziwen was still in high spirits. The scale of the match was astonishing. He did not look any worse than Xiao Chen. However, when Xiao Chen became truly enraged, he used one saber strike to instantly defeat Xie Ziwen, thoroughly shocking everyone. In the spectator stands, the Evil Moon Pavilion elders all had unsightly expressions. First, an elite disciple was toyed with by Kim Tae-ho. Next, Xie Ziwen, whom they had placed their hopes on, was defeated in one move. As a super sect, such embarrassing things happened one after another. It was a complete slap in the face. Bai Zhan was speechless. This fellow already told him that he was not a match for Xiao Chen, yet he still humiliated himself. When Xiao Chen returned to his spectator stands, Yun Kursen was astonished at the strength that Xiao Chen had displayed. She asked curiously, "Xiao Chen, how much strength did you use earlier?" Xiao Chen smiled faintly and replied, "Not even half. Perhaps not even half of half." Yun Kursen could not help but be horrified. Half of half? Doesn't that mean that he did not even use a quarter of his strength? What exactly is Xiao Chen's strength now? In a spectator stand far away from Xiao Chen, the 3 genius cultivators of the Myriad Fiend Palace had also seen the earlier battle. Bai's bright eyes seemed to twinkle like stars. He smiled happily and said, "Elder brother Xiao Chen has become very powerful. Bai, you have to do your best as well. Let's meet in the finals together with elder brother Xiao Chen." Mu Xinya, Jiang Zimo, and Chu Mu shook their heads and smiled bitterly, not saying anything. After they parted in Desolate City, the 3 of them had set Xiao Chen as their target, doing their best to catch up. Now that 2 years had passed, the 3 of them had improved. However, the gap between them and Xiao Chen seemed to be growing larger. It seemed like they would never be able to catch up to that threshold. Once Xiao Chen surpassed them, they would lose the chance to catch up. To be in the same generation as Xiao Chen, setting him as their target was a tragedy. After defeating Xie Ziwen in one move, Xiao Chen's popularity soared. In the next 3 matches, his opponents chose to forfeit. After all, there were 20 matches, one after another. If one knew that they would lose to Xiao Chen, yet they still risked getting injured, it would be unwise. Obviously, this was extremely unwise. The most important thing was to conserve his strength and prepare for the next battle. After Xiao Chen sat down, Lu Suifeng, who had been watching the matches, immediately said to Xiao Chen, "A genius bladesman appeared in Group 10. He is very powerful." Compared to Xiao Chen, Lu Suifeng and the others were much more relaxed. They could watch the matches more freely. They could be considered as scouts, helping Xiao Chen to see which geniuses he needed to pay attention to. A genius in the saber? The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was famous for the saber. Under the influence of Lu Suifeng's eyes and ears, he naturally had a good eye for bladesmen. A bladesman that caught his eye and was referred to as a genius would definitely not be weak. Since the group stages started, Xiao Chen had seen many genius swordsmen. However, geniuses in the saber category were rare. Xiao Chen asked interestedly, "Is he a disciple of the Divine Saber Gate, one of the 10 great sects?" Of the 10 great sects, the Divine Saber Gate was famous for its saber techniques. In terms of saber techniques, they were several times more accomplished than the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lu Suifeng shook his head and said, "No." Somewhat surprised, Xiao Chen said, "Then, he is a disciple of the Bai clan." The Bai clan was also famous for its saber techniques. Their ancestor, Bai Shueha, was a saber emperor. The 4-season saber technique was known as the saber technique closest to heaven-ranked martial techniques. Although heaven-ranked martial techniques were strong, under normal circumstances, one had to be a martial monarch before they could practice them. Given this, the strength of the 4-season saber technique became obvious among a large group of half-step martial monarchs. It was clearly an earth-ranked martial technique, but it had the might of a heaven-ranked martial technique. This was like a cheat. This was also why Bai Qi dared to challenge Sima Lingxian back then. It was not strange for a noble clan of saber techniques to have a few geniuses weaker than Bai Zhan. However, Lu Suifeng still shook his head and said, "That's not it either. This fellow is called Lin Fei. He does not belong to any sect. His saber techniques are very exquisite. The strength he shows is only that of a superior grade martial king. However, when he brings out his combat prowess, even a half-step martial monarch would not be a match for him. He is going up again. He has already won 10 matches in a row. I wonder if he can continue." Mu Chen, who was at the side, said. "Lin Fei does not belong to any sect. He is not a disciple of the Divine Saber Gate or a disciple of the Bai clan. There are many newcomers in this 5-nation youth competition." Xiao Chen could not help but look into the distance. He saw 2 youths already standing on the dueling ring for Group 10. One of them wore embroidered clothes with 2 crossed sabers embroidered on his chest. Xiao Chen knew that was the symbol of the Divine Saber Gate. The other person wore azure clothes and held a saber about 1 meter long and 2 fingers wide. He looked very ordinary, looking very ordinary. His eyes were hidden, like a silent volcano. A horrifying aura seemed like it would erupt at any moment. This azure-robed man should be the Lin Fei that Lu Suifeng mentioned. There are not many experts in Group 10. However, Lin Fei's winning streak might come to an end. His opponent is the elite disciple of the Divine Saber Gate, Ma Yuan, who was ranked 39th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Furthermore, they are both bladesmen. They know each other very well. The situation is not good. The most important thing is that they are from a large sect. The martial techniques and cultivation techniques they practice are not weak. They are completely different from the other opponents. Clearly, Lin Fei was very popular. Before the duel started, many of the cultivators near Shaochen started discussing him. Ma Yuan held a slender scarlet saber in his hand. He looked at Lin Fei and said, "Sorry, I will be the one to end your winning streak." Lin Fei smiled and said, "Where does your confidence come from? Make your move. Let me see how many strikes the elite disciple of the Divine Saber Gate can take." "A nameless brat, how dare you be so arrogant?" Ma Yuan shouted ferociously, and his aura exploded out. The wrist that he used to hold his saber trembled, and a scarlet killing chi immediately spread out from his body. Traceless blood shadow. The moment Ma Yuan made his move, he did not intend to hold back. He immediately used the starting stance of the superior grade earth-ranked saber technique of the Divine Saber Gate, the Blood Shadow Saber technique. Instantly, scarlet saber lights flew out from the saber. As they scattered, the entire place was filled with scarlet lights. The silhouette contained sharp killing intent. Every strand of killing intent was firmly locked onto Lin Fei, not giving him much chance to dodge. Lu Suifeng sighed and said, "The disciples of a large sect are really good. The moment they start, they use an earth-ranked saber technique. Look at the state and wonders of this saber technique. It is not something an ordinary saber technique can compare to." Xiao Qin agreed with Lu Suifeng's words. For the blood shadow saber technique, the blood represented killing chi, and the shadows represented nimble and formless trajectories. This was just the starting stance, and it already caused the killing intent to scatter like snowflakes. This Ma Yuan was indeed quite capable. However, whether he could obtain victory or not depended on how deep his understanding of the state of the blood shadow saber technique was. A large sect was good. They could give you martial techniques that ordinary people would find hard to obtain. However, how much you could bring out depended on your talent. Lin Fei was expressionless. However, at this moment, his originally lifeless eyes became lively. He quickly swept his gaze over the blood shadow saber light and Ma Yuan. After that, Lin Fei quickly made a decision in his heart. He revealed a cold smile and drew his saber with a xiao sound. In the blink of an eye, Lin Fei sent out 10 saber strikes. The sharp saber chi were like arrows, unblockable. They all struck the weakest part of the blood shadow saber chi. Clanging sounds resounded and the blood shadows filling the air were all shattered by Lin Fei. The starting stance of the blood shadow saber technique was broken just like that. Xiao Qin said, "Ma Yuan is going to lose." Mu Chen and the others felt it was strange. This was just the beginning. Why did Xiao Qin say that Ma Yuan was going to lose? Ma Yuan appeared somewhat dispirited. The blood shadow saber technique had just started. It had not even had time to display its might. How could it be broken so quickly? How was he going to continue fighting? Chapter 572. However, Lin Fei did not give Ma Yuan any time to hesitate. Suddenly, a sharp saber chi shot out from under his feet. He followed this saber chi and arrived before Ma Yuan in an instant. Dang! At the critical moment, Ma Yuan finally reacted. He grasped his saber with both hands and blocked his opponent's attack. When the weapons clashed, sparks flew. Bang! However, just at this moment, another strand of sharp saber chi shot out from under Lin Fei's feet. His body instantly floated into the air. That strand of saber chi was incredibly sharp. It came from below and came from a strange angle. Even with Ma Yuan's rich combat experience, he was flustered and caught off guard. Again. Ma Yuan had just retreated when Lin Fei, who was floating in the air, waited for a long time. He landed beside Ma Yuan and hacked down with his 1-meter-long saber with a strong aura. The strand of saber chi that came from under Lin Fei's feet appeared almost at the same time as the saber strike. Furthermore, this attack came from the side of Ma Yuan. Ma Yuan tried to catch the saber strike, but the saber chi that shot out brushed past him. A bloody hole appeared in his chest, and blood flowed out. Dang! 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 After losing in one move, Ma Yuan lost the entire match. Lin Fei did not show mercy, not giving Ma Yuan any chance to counterattack. After 6 moves, 7 bloody holes appeared in Ma Yuan's chest. His clothes were dyed red with blood, and his complexion paled. Seeing that Lin Fei was about to descend again, Ma Yuan said unwillingly, "I admit defeat." Lin Fei, who was in the air, instantly withdrew his move. He somersaulted once in the air before gently landing on the ground. Lin Fei had defeated his opponent in 7 moves. Furthermore, he was not injured at all. Ma Yuan had not even managed to touch the corner of his clothes. The new generation replaces the old. However, this newcomer rose up too quickly. The old generation died on the beach. Indeed. After all, he was ranked 39th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. In the end, he did not even manage to touch the corner of Lin Fei's clothes. This newcomer is too horrifying. This unexpected result caused the cultivators and the spectator stands to sigh after a long silence. Ha ha! This is still good. You did not watch the matches of the 20th group. The Eastern Sea's Little Dragon King, Shenyuan Zhantian, defeated his opponent in 1 move every time. Quite a few experts from the previous tournament didn't believe it. In the end, there were no surprises. No matter where you came from, the power of your halberd is unstoppable. There are too many new talents this year. It's the same for Group 1. There's a young lady from the Myriad Demon Palace. She's definitely not more than 16 years old. But he actually won more than 10 rounds in a row before losing to a direct disciple of one of the 10 great sections. It looks like the age of geniuses is real. The second elimination round will begin the day after tomorrow. After the seeded participants participate, the competition will probably be even more intense. Lu Suifeng secretly clicked his tongue. What a strange saber technique. How is one supposed to block it? There is one move on the surface and another hidden move. I have never heard of such a martial technique before. Could it be that he created it himself? Yun Kersen looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Xiao Chen, what are your chances of victory against him?" Xiao Chen pondered for a moment and said, "This person is very strong. If it's just the strength he has shown, I have a 100% chance of winning against him." Murong Chong said in astonishment, "Could it be that you have a way to deal with that strange saber technique?" Xiao Chen did not answer this question directly. He said, "Winning by surprise is very difficult. If he holds on to the idea of conquering the world with just a set of saber techniques, it will be very difficult for him to enter the top 50 of the ranking battles." As they spoke, it was soon time for Xiao Chen's match. This time, his opponent was a short-haired cultivator holding a spear. He was about the same age as Xiao Chen. However, his face looked very lethargic. The short-haired cultivator did not seem very confident. He looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Xiao Chen, if you can receive 1 move from me, I will admit defeat." Xiao Chen said calmly, "I do not need you to admit defeat. If you want to use your best move, you have to do your best to create an opportunity. Don't beg for an opponent. If I agree, will you use the same move every time you meet an opponent stronger than you?" Xiao Chen did not like such cowardice before a fight. If he wanted to force his opponent to fight him in 1 move, he needed to use an equal amount of strength and capital. If he relied on begging to obtain this opportunity, his mentality would be unstable from the start. The short-haired cultivator did not expect Xiao Chen to reject him so straightforwardly. He clenched his teeth and said, "Watch out for the spear." The spear spun around, and the surrounding air stirred up a strong wind, gathering at the tip of the spear. The short-haired cultivator's right hand trembled, and the spear moved like a venomous snake coming out of its hole, biting at Xiao Chen. When the spear arrived in front of Xiao Chen, the spear tip shook violently a few times. It seemed like there were a few more venomous snakes coming out of their holes, making it hard to distinguish the real from the fake. Xiao Chen shook his head slightly. The opening was too obvious. If the other party did not change his move, he could have just thrust his spear. The aura, speed, and state of the spear could be said to be perfect. Unfortunately, he insisted on playing with technique, and the state of the spear crumbled. Against a cultivator with better eyesight and techniques than him, this spear strike was laughable. Xiao Chen clenched his fist and punched. Berserk Dragon. An azure dragon-shaped energy spread out in front of his fist. Xiao Chen's fist clashed with one of the spear lights. Bang! There was a loud sound, and the fake and real spear lights all disappeared. The short-haired cultivator held the spear in his hand and retreated a few steps back. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on his saber hilt and ran quickly. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before his opponent. Before his opponent could react, Xiao Chen drew his saber and knocked the spear out of his opponent's hand. Then, he moved his right hand and placed his saber on his opponent's neck. You lost, Xiao Chen said calmly. The short-haired cultivator was clearly dissatisfied. He said, I still have not used my trump card. As long as you give me 2 seconds, I will definitely be able to turn the situation around. If you do not even have the chance to execute it, how can it be called a trump card? Don't be stubborn. Improving your foundation is the most important thing. Otherwise, any trump card is just empty talk. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and did not say anything more. He had already said this much. Whether he could comprehend it or not would depend on himself. The short-haired cultivator had a blank expression on his face. He kept thinking about Xiao Chen's words in his mind. There would always be a time when the 20 rounds of competition came to an end. When the sun set, Xiao Chen's group of 6 had all finished their matches. He had obtained a perfect score without any losses. After waiting for a while, Yun Kersen and Murong Chong also finished their matches. Yun Kersen's luck was good, and she managed to break through. Murong Chong's luck did not continue to be bad. He managed to qualify for the group of death with some difficulty. The first elder, Jiang Qi, had an excited expression on his face. The great Qin nation's Misty Sword sect only had one person left, Chu Chaoyan. However, the Night Spirit Palace's Mu Qingxue had fallen in the first round. In terms of numbers, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had completely suppressed the other 2 great sections. If they advertised it properly in the future, it would greatly increase the influence of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Let's go, we can go back first. We will rest tomorrow and prepare for the elimination round the day after tomorrow, Jiang Qi said as he stood up. Xiao Chen looked at the dueling ring and said, wait for a while. The match between Nangong Ziyue and the Sun Moon Sword Sect's Mo Zian is about to begin. In a situation where the seated participants had not appeared, it would be very difficult for a match to attract Xiao Chen's attention. Lin Fei's earlier match was one. Now, Nangong Ziyue and Mo Zian's match was another. There was no need to say much about Nangong Ziyue. She came from one of the 8 noble clans and was ranked in the top 8 of the previous 5-nation youth competition. She was one of the hot favorites for the top 5 this time around. Nangong Ziyue should not have appeared here. Unfortunately, her seated spot was taken by Yu Chenxi. Mo Zian was the personal disciple of the Sun Moon Sword Sect, one of the 10 great sections. He was ranked 11th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Although he did not get into the top 10, he was just unlucky. Mo Zian's true combat prowess was publicly acknowledged to be no weaker than the top 10. Hence, this match was definitely a match of the strong in everyone's eyes. At this moment, most of the matches had already ended. However, no one left the spectator stands. They were all waiting for the match between the 2. Mo Zian had a sword hanging at his waist. He had a long and narrow face. Such a person should give off the impression of a treacherous and vile person. However, Mo Zian exuded a righteous aura. He was so broad-minded that he could swallow the sun and the moon. No one could feel that kind of negative aura. Nangong Ziyue, how do you feel after being forced out of your seated spot? Mo Zian asked with a gentle smile. Nangong Ziyue replied calmly, just take care of yourself. Be careful not to lose to me again. Mo Zian said, receive my move. If I cannot defeat you in 10 moves, I will forfeit. As Mo Zian spoke, he displayed strong confidence. Ka Xie. The sword was drawn. It was 1 meter long and 2 centimeters wide. It flickered with a cold light and emitted a sharp light. Sword chi flowed out of it. This was a superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. It was incredibly sharp. Pooh! Pooh! Mo Xian leaped into the air. The instant he soared into the air, the night sky blocked out the afterglow of the setting sun. A bright moon hung high in the sky. As Mo Xian's sword moved, a poignant moonlight shone on Nangong Ziyue, who was on the ground. Under the moonlight, Mo Xian looked very graceful and at ease. This sword seemed to have flown over from beyond the heavens. It gave off the illusion of space. Mo Xian seemed to be very close to Nangong Ziyue, but at the same time, it seemed like he was very far away. So close, yet worlds apart, boundless moonlight pulling together. Using the moonlight to simulate the state of world's end near at hand, whether he was at the end of the world or close at hand was decided by a single thought, and the outcome would be decided immediately. In the spectator stands for the seated contestants, Sima Lingxian, who had a very casual expression, was attracted by this state. He praised softly, "Not bad. Mo Xian has already grasped the essence of the sun-moon sword sect state of bright moon. If he can bring his state of blazing sun to this level, he will be qualified to fight with Nangong Ziyue. If he can use the state of sun and moon as he pleases, he will have a 70% chance of entering the top 10. Even Sima Lingxian gave such a high evaluation. It was easy to imagine how incredible Mo Xian's sword was. This is the true strength of the top 10 contestants. Indeed, they are on a completely different level from the other contestants. They will only reveal some of their true strength when facing people of the same level as them. They are all geniuses, but the gap between them is like an insurmountable chasm. I wonder how Nangong Ziyue will block this. This match should be the match of the highest quality in the first round of elimination. Mo Xian's casual sword strike immediately caused the large spectator stands to be filled with astonishment. As the saying went, when an expert made a move, it was easy to tell. A peak genius was indeed not someone that ordinary people could match up to. A gap was a gap. Chapter 573. Xianyuan Zhantian, who had already finished his match, looked at this duel. He revealed a smile and said, "What an interesting state. I wonder how that girl will deal with this. So close yet worlds apart." Whether Nangong Ziyue was at the other end of the world or close to her depended on her judgment. If Nangong Ziyue judged that her opponent was at the other end of the world, she should focus on storing up energy to receive the sharp sword strike from her opponent at the other end of the world. If Nangong Ziyue judged that her opponent was at the other end of the world, she should attack quickly. Because the distance was close, her opponent would definitely attack very quickly, not giving her time to react. The night sky was turned upside down, the moonlight was like water, shining brightly and sprinkling down. Mo Xian's sword descended from the sky, filling the sky with light. Where was he? Was he at the other end of the world or close to her? Although all of this took a long time to describe, everything happened in an instant. Nangong Ziyue had to make a decision in an extremely short amount of time. Otherwise, she would have been defeated by that one strike. Suddenly, Nangong Ziyue moved. She took a step forward with her right foot and slowly made a strange gesture with her left and right hands. It was like she was activating some strange martial technique. Nangong Ziyue did not store up energy or attack quickly. Everyone could not help but feel suspicious about what she was doing. Splash! Suddenly, the melodious sound of flowing water rang out. At some point in time, tall mountains and flowing lakes appeared around Nangong Ziyue. Nangong Ziyue stood in the middle of the lake. The mountains moved in the water and she drifted among the mountains and rivers. Was it the mountains moving or the water flowing? Or was it the otherworldly girl in the mountains and rivers swaying? No one could tell what was happening. If you are at the other end of the world, I will flow with the waves. If you are close to me, I will be as unmoving as a mountain. If you are at the other end of the world, I will flow with the waves. If you are close to me, I will be as unmoving as a mountain. If you have the boundless moonlight, I will be as unmoving as a mountain. If you want me to be as unmoving as a mountain, I will be as unmoving as a mountain. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but praise, what a beautiful concept of mountains and rivers, turning the passive into the active in an instant. Is this the strength of the 8 aristocratic families? In the seated contestants' spectator stands, the 10 seated contestants all revealed expressions of admiration. The Baiming clan's scion, Baiming Shang, smiled gently and said, I have long heard that the Nangong clan has an ancient book called the Mountain and River Scripture. It looks like Nangong Ziyue comprehended a part of it. She, who is fighting for the seated spot, probably did not use her full power. As he spoke, he purposely glanced at the Haotian sex Yu Chenxi, the woman who pushed Nangong Ziyue out. Yu Chenxi smiled faintly and ignored Baiming Shang's words. If Nangong Ziyue did not use her full strength, how could she do the same? Clang clang. Suddenly, a clear sword hum rang out in the dueling ring. Mo Zian's sword had finally arrived before Nangong Ziyue. Nangong Ziyue smiled faintly and pushed her palms forward. It seemed like she had the power to change the world. The surrounding tall mountains started moving quickly. No, it was not the mountains that moved, but the water that flowed too fast. The crowd used Nangong Ziyue, who was drifting with the water, as a reference. They had the misconception that the tall mountains were moving. You came from the ends of the earth. I will drift with the water, moving 1,000 kilometers away. In the dueling ring, Nangong Ziyue's curvaceous body quickly retreated. No matter how fast Mo Zian's sword was or how strong it was, it always stopped 1 centimeter in front of her, unable to advance any further. A resonant sword hum rang out, and a strong sword intent spread out. It passed through the wind cloud barrier and spread to the spectator stands. The swords of several swordsmen could not help but hum. With the support of the moonlight, the might of the small perfection sword intent more than doubled. After attacking for a long time without success, Missouri Zian quickly changed his move. He held his sword with one hand and used both hands. Then, he swung his sword downwards. Raging fire burns the mountain. The night disappeared, and the bright moon disappeared. The blazing sun shone in the sky. Unexpectedly, Mo Zian had changed his state in a short instant. The gentle moonlight turned into the strong and unyielding light of the blazing sun, encasing Nangong Ziyue and forcing her to clash head-on. Xiao! Nangong Ziyue suddenly stopped. In that instant, the mountains stopped moving, the water stopped flowing, the tall mountains remained silent, and the waves remained calm. This showed Nangong Ziyue's control of her state to the finest detail. Using the mountains as the momentum and the lake as the intent, she did not fear clashing head-on with her opponent. She sent out a punch. Boom! The fist and the sword clashed head-on. An intense explosion resounded in the dueling ring. An unending shockwave spread out in all directions. Visible ripples appeared on the wind cloud barrier. Clearly, it suffered from an intense impact. If it were not for the barrier, the shockwave would have affected some of the cultivators in the spectator stands who were closer to Xiao Chen. How strong! Are all the peak geniuses of the younger generation this strong? It looks like they are no weaker than ordinary inferior-grade martial monarchs. Compared to them, those rising stars are undoubtedly a little lacking in terms of aura. The crowd in the spectator stands was astonished. Clearly, they had not expected the clash between the two to have such a huge impact. The genius Saber Lin Fei looked at the two of them. A fervent light flashed in his eyes as he muttered, "Master was right. There are countless geniuses in the 5-nation youth competition. I have indeed underestimated these people in the past." Bang! There was another intense explosion. The blazing sun in the sky that Mo Zian's state had turned shattered into countless sparks. The sky turned dark once more. The setting sun in the distance shone its golden light on the dueling ring once more. However, the lake under Nangong Ziyue's feet only rippled for a while before no more waves appeared. The mountain was still the same mountain, and the lake was still the same lake. It was clear which was stronger between the fist and the sword. The pale Mo Zian fell to the ground. Clearly, he was not satisfied. He gently patted the dueling ring and sword into the air, charging at Nangong Ziyue again. Xiao! 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 A sharp sword light swept through the place like a sharp wind blade. As the sun and moon alternated, Mo Zian's aura changed unpredictably. His sword moves were also unpredictable. Nangong Ziyue did not panic. She walked between the mountains and rivers and casually sent out fist winds. She used the might of the mountains and the state of the flowing water to break Mo Zian's sword moves. Feng Yuan, the scion of the Feng clan, who was famous for their movement techniques of the 8 noble clans, looked at the situation and said, "The state of mountains and rivers is indeed strong. I'm afraid Mo Zian will not be able to wait until Nangong Ziyue is at the end of her rope." Bai Qi smiled and said, "Why wait until she is at the end of her rope? If he is really capable, he can split the mountain and cut the water. When the 1,000 mountains are broken, the 10,000 rivers will not flow. Naturally, Nangong Ziyue will lose. Unfortunately, Mo Zian does not have such an ability." Sima Lingxian remained silent. He agreed with Bai Qi's opinion in his heart. Although Nangong Ziyue was strong, if that was all, she would not be a match for them. Immortal mountains and rivers. Nangong Ziyue shouted and did not intend to continue fighting. A pillar of water shot up into the sky from the lake behind her. Then, she punched with both fists, carrying the might of the immortal mountains and rivers. One fist was the mountain, the other the water. The mountains and rivers are immortal, only I exist. A tyrannical aura spread out from Nangong Ziyue's body. Bang! The boundless sword move that Mo Zian materialized as the sun and moon alternated vanished before this pair of fists. He vomited 2 mouthfuls of blood and crashed into the wind cloud barrier, losing the ability to continue fighting. Nangong Ziyue withdrew her fists and stood upright. The mountain was no longer there and the water was no longer there. Only a cool breeze remained in the wind cloud barrier. All the cultivators in the vast spectator stands remained silent. That tyrannical punch had left a deep impression on them. It was hard to imagine that such a pretty girl could deliver such a tyrannical punch. The final match of the first day of the competition did not disappoint the crowd. Mo Zian and Nangong Ziyue were worthy of everyone's weight. Nangong Ziyue looked at the seated contestants' seats and swept her gaze across Yu Chenxi's face. Then, she gently floated down from the wind cloud platform. Everyone understood the gaze that flew over. During the preliminaries, Nangong Ziyue, who did not want to reveal her strength, had lost in the fight for the dragon pillar and was forced to give up her seated spot. However, this did not mean that she was inferior to Yu Chenxi. Nangong Ziyue was issuing a challenge to Yu Chenxi, wanting to take revenge for him snatching away her seated spot. After tomorrow, the immortal mountains and rivers fist would face the peak great perfection morning sun fist. What kind of shocking battle would that be? Between Yu Chenxi and Nangong Ziyue, who was stronger? Everyone was filled with anticipation. After the match between Mo Zian and Nangong Ziyue ended, there were still a few matches left. However, they were not any outstanding matches. They were negligible. Most of the cultivators stood up and headed out. They formed groups of 3 to 5 and discussed the matches today in soft voices. They all had excited expressions on their faces. The quality of this 5-nation youth competition was much better than the previous 5-nation youth competition. The newcomers that appeared were also not comparable to the previous 5-nation youth competition. Several veteran experts, like Xie Ziwen, who was ranked 47th, and Ma Yuan, who was ranked 39th, were eliminated on the first day. This was a huge surprise to everyone. Even before the seeded contestants appeared, the first day's matches were already very exciting. Everyone could not help but be filled with anticipation for the matches the day after tomorrow. When the 9 seeded contestants appeared, the already intense elimination round would become even more intense. The newcomers who were still hiding their strength would no longer be able to do so. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Whether Xianyuan Zhantian, Lin Fei, Xiao Chen, and Chu Chaoyun could last until the end was something everyone was looking forward to. Xiao Qin withdrew his gaze and prepared to leave with the first elder, Jiang Qi, and the others. Ha ha! Little brother Xiao Qin, it has been a long time. Just at this moment, a familiar laugh rang out. When everyone looked back, they saw a richly jeweled Kim Tae-ho waving his folding fan as he dragged his fat body over. Jiang Qi and the others were not familiar with Kim Tae-ho, so they just greeted him and left first. Xiao Qin looked at Kim Tae-ho and smiled faintly. Unexpectedly, with your body, you dare to participate in the Five-Nation Youth Competition. Furthermore, you managed to pass the first elimination round. Kim Tae-ho chuckled and waved his hand. It is just a small matter. It is just the first elimination round. Wait for this fat lord to get into the top 10 before you get shocked. Work hard. Let us two brothers fight for the finals. Chapter 574. Xiao Qin was flabbergasted. He said, "Cut the crap. Do you think I do not know what you are capable of? What are you planning this time?" Fatso smiled and said, "I am here to discuss business and to get into the top 10 for fun." Fatso waved his golden folding fan. He spoke very casually, not unnatural at all. Elder brother Xiao Qin. While the two of them were chatting, another crisp and pleasant voice rang out. A fragrant wind blew over, causing one to feel refreshed and intoxicated. Xiao Qin turned his head to look. Before he could react, a soft body threw itself into his embrace and hugged him tightly. The young girl's breasts pressed tightly against Xiao Qin's chest. Jiang Zimo and Chu Mu, who followed behind, revealed envious expressions. Xiao Qin felt somewhat embarrassed. He placed Bai on the ground and said joyfully, "Bai, why are you here?" Xiao Qin was indeed pleasantly surprised. He had not expected to meet Bai again. In reality, Bai's dueling ring happened to be in a blind spot of Xiao Qin's seat. There were also several dueling rings in between. If one did not pay special attention, one would not notice the other party. After all, 20 dueling rings were too many. Bai said seriously, "I am here to participate. I want to prove to elder brother Xiao Qin that Bai has the ability to protect herself now." Earlier, Xiao Qin had heard the cultivators nearby talking about a genius young girl appearing in the Myriad Fiend Palace. She had won several matches in a row. He had not expected that person to be Bai. "Bai, you and this fat lord have not seen each other for a long time. Come, give me a hug," Kim Tae-ho said to Bai with a smile. Bai shook her head and said, "I am not letting you hug me. Bai will only let elder brother Xiao Qin hug me. Brother Xiao, it has been a long time." Just at this moment, another voice rang out. Two handsome cultivators with different auras walked over. It was the Great Chu Nation's Heavenly Sword Gates Ding Fengqiu and the Great Tang Nation's Beast Taming Abode Sui Mo. They were old friends from Desolate City. After parting that day, they officially reunited today. Jiang Zimo smiled and said, "Congratulations to Brother Zhua and Brother Ding for passing the first elimination round." Zuomo laughed and said, "Not worth mentioning. Didn't you all pass? It's been almost 2 years since we last met in Barren City. Let's find a place to drink tomorrow." Indeed, close to 2 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The scenes of Desolate City from that day were still vivid in their minds, as if they were still right before their eyes. When they met at the Great Jin Nation's Wind Cloud platform, Xiao Qin's heroic words from back then still rang in his ears. Fatso immediately said, "Alcohol is not good, let's drink tea. Come to the cities don't know about tea at noon tomorrow. It's my treat. Hee, this is not an ordinary tea house. The tea leaves inside are all plucked from spirit trees that are over 1,000 years old and processed with a secret technique. They have all kinds of healing effects. Normally, you can't buy them even if you have money." Don't know about tea was indeed very mysterious. It was the largest tea house in Dragon Sealing City, the only one in the world. For the next 3 years, this tea house would only be open for a few days during the Five-Nation Youth Competition. After that, it would not be open again. The craftsmen in the tea house still retained all sorts of ancient tea arts. From the tea set to the tea leaves and the tea, to the tea master, everything in the tea house was the best of the best. To people who loved tea, this was their holy land. Indeed, the moment Fatso said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Several of the tea leaves in Don't Know About Tea were ridiculously expensive. With Fatso treating, everyone naturally felt happy. Xiaochen smiled and said, "It is settled, then. We will meet again at noon tomorrow. Goodbye." After not seeing each other for more than a year, Xiaochen also felt like reuniting with his old friends. Chatting about their comprehensions of the martial way, their encounters, and the upcoming five-nation youth competition were all wonderful things to do. After the few of them said their goodbyes, Bai said reluctantly, "Elder brother Xiaochen, don't forget our promise from back then. Bai will definitely become stronger." Fatso clicked his tongue and said, "After not seeing her for 2 years, this girl has become even more beautiful. I really did not expect a martial fanatic like you to have such luck with women." Xiaochen smiled bitterly. Sometimes, having too much luck with women was not something he could bear. Xiaochen already had Lu Ruyue. He only had a sibling relationship with Bai. How to deal with this relationship gave him a headache. Early the next morning, Xiaochen went out on time. The cultivators on the streets of Dragon Ceiling City were all discussing yesterday's competition in groups of 2 or 3. There were even some people selling the information of some popular contestants. Xiaochen found it interesting, so he casually bought a list that many people were buying. This was a list of the 10 newcomers. It introduced the 10 newcomers who had performed exceptionally well in yesterday's competition. Xiaochen looked at Shenyuan Zhantian with interest. There was a detailed account of Shenyuan Zhantian's experiences in the Eastern Sea. There were also some comments on his performance in the competition. Shenyuan Zhantian was known as the Eastern Sea's Little Dragon King. He became famous at a young age. At the age of 10, he displayed startling talent and was taken in as the final disciple of the Divine Dragon Palace's Dragon King. At the age of 13, the Dragon King officially announced that he would be the next Dragon King of the Eastern Boundless Sea. From then on, the title of Little Dragon King spread like wildfire. In the elimination round, no one could block a single move from Shenyuan Zhantian. Many people guessed that only Sima Lingxian would be able to fight him. The comments were rather interesting. Xiaochen continued reading. The second ranked was the genius bladesman Lin Fei. The evaluation for him was also very high. Lin Fei defeated the veteran bladesman Ma Yuan, who was also a bladesman, in 7 moves. His strange saber techniques were unfathomable. His opponent did not even manage to touch the corner of his clothes. He was fully deserving of being the second-ranked newcomer. The third-ranked was Chu Chaoyun. The evaluation for him was very strange. Chu Chaoyun did not have an easy time winning every match. However, in Group 13, which had several veteran experts, Chu Chaoyun still managed to obtain complete victories. The fourth-ranked was Bai. The evaluation for her was that she was a young genius. She was only 15 years old, but she defeated several veteran experts. Furthermore, she had the heart of a swordsman that all swordsmen dreamed of. Her future was unfathomable. The fifth-ranked was Lu Xiaoyun's junior brother, Han Yao Tian. Xiaochen was not familiar with him. After a cursory glance, he skipped over his name. Unexpectedly, he saw Kim Taeho's name in the 7th rank. Xiaochen could not help but laugh hoarsely. It was hard to imagine that Fatso would make it onto the list as well. Slowly, Xiaochen looked down and saw his own name in the 9th rank. The evaluation for his strength was also very strong. This person's title was the White-Robed Bladesman. His strength was unfathomable. However, because there were no experts in Group 7, his complete victories were too exaggerated. Hence, he could only be ranked 7th. Xiaochen put away the name list and smiled. I wonder who compiled this name list. Although it is not very complete, there are not many discrepancies. As for his ranking in the 9th rank, Xiaochen did not think much of it. He only cared about defeating the opponents in front of him. Ignorant about tea meant that he did not understand tea. It was very strange for a tea house to have such a name. If he did not understand tea, then why did he open a tea house? Most tea houses would have many troublemakers because of this name. However, in Dragon Sealing City, this famous tea house had such a name. It could only be said that the owner of the tea house was being modest and sighing at himself. The way of tea was the same as the martial way. The higher one went, the more one would discover how insignificant and inadequate one was. The reverence one would feel for the way of tea would increase. As Xiao-Chen stood in front of the entrance of the Ignorant About Tea building, he looked at the 3 words written on the signboard. He entered deep thought and gained some comprehension. Even the top tea house of the continent only dared to use the words ignorant about tea. As of now, Xiao-Chen had not even officially reached a higher level in the martial way. Hence, he needed a humble and reverent heart. Little brother Xiao-Chen, look here. Xiao-Chen looked up and saw Kim Tae-ho greeting him with a smile at the railing on the 3rd floor. Xiao-Chen pushed off with his feet and soared into the air. Then, he landed beside Kim Tae-ho. There was a tea set on a small and exquisite table. There was also a name list on the table in front of Kim Tae-ho. Ding! Ding! Dong! Dong! There was the clear sound of flowing water in the ancient tea house. When one stood there, one could feel a sense of peace and tranquility. After Xiao-Chen sat down, a pretty white-clad maidservant immediately came over. Following the ancient tea craftsmanship, she poured a cup of tea for Xiao-Chen. Steam came from the teacup, and a faint fragrance spread out. It immediately refreshed one's mind and made one feel refreshed. Kim Tae-ho smiled and said, "This is 1,000-year-old Menjir tea. It was brewed using a secret method and added in many spirit herbs that have special effects on cultivators. Try it, it might have an unexpected effect." Xiao-Chen smiled gently. What Xiao-Chen said made him curious. So, he picked up the teacup and took a sip. The tea circled around in his mouth and slowly slid down his throat. However, before it could flow down, the tea turned into gas and permeated his internal organs, skin, blood, and marrow. Xiao-Chen's entire body felt numb. The gas from the Menjir tea carefully sorted out all the hidden injuries that he had suffered in the fierce battle in the deep sea. Xiao-Chen rejoiced and quickly closed his eyes. As the medicinal energy in the tea spread out, he slowly circulated his energy and doubled the effect. After a long time, Xiao-Chen opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of turbid qi. He felt his body lighten significantly and more nimble. Xiao-Chen picked up the teacup and took another sip. However, the effect from earlier was no longer there. Only the fragrance of the tea lingered in his mouth. Kim Tae-ho chuckled and said, "It is only effective the first time. This cup of tea costs 10,000 superior-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, there is no market for it. Only 20 cups are sold every day." Xiao-Chen was astonished. This tea was not something that ordinary people could drink. Xiao-Chen had a whole new level of respect for Fatso. Unexpectedly, he had become so generous. Kim Tae-ho waved his hand and said, "We are all friends. Don't look at me like that. It is just a cup of tea. This fat lord can still afford it." The two chatted casually for a while. After a while, Jiang Zimo, Bai, Ding Fengqiu, and the others arrived one after another. Without exception, they all held a rookie register. After they sat down, the first topic they discussed was the rookie register. Zuomo smiled and said, "The rookie register will appear on the 2nd day of every 5-nation youth competition. It is officially announced by the city lord's residence. It is rather authoritative. I believe that all the cultivators in the city have a copy of it." Kim Tae-ho nodded and said, "This is something that the city lord's residence created to expand the influence of the 5-nation youth competition. After the finals are over, there will be a complete ranking list." Hee hee. You can imagine it. There are more than 2 million cultivators in Dragon Sealing City from all over the continent. Everyone has a rookie register. When they return, they spread it everywhere. It would be hard for the cultivators on the ranking not to become famous. Chapter 575. Become famous. These words immediately appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. There was no cultivator in the world who did not love these words. Fame might sound tacky, but when cultivators struggled for their entire lives, they only pursued these two words. Even Xiao Chen could not avoid being tacky. The so-called difference was actually their attitude toward fame. Bai giggled and said, I am ranked 4th, 5 ranks higher than elder brother Xiao Chen. Elder brother Xiao Chen, please don't say that Bai is weak in the future. This girl still remembered what I said. Xiao Chen smiled and said, I won't say it. I won't say it. I definitely won't say it. Ding Fengqiu said sullenly, almost all the cultivators in the hall on the first floor are talking about the True Dragon ranking list. However, in the end, this is just the True Dragon ranking list for newcomers. Only the True Dragon ranking list at the end will have its true use. It will spread your name throughout the entire Tianwu continent. Ding Fengqiu's tone clearly contained a hint of dissatisfaction. Xiao Chen's expression froze. It looked like this Ding Fengqiu had comprehended some strong killing move and was preparing to display his sharpness in the second elimination round. Jiang Zimo smiled and said, that's right. The True Dragon ranking list is more fake than real. In the end, the True Dragon ranking list will spread. Furthermore, this True Dragon ranking list will expose you all. I believe that there will be even more people watching you in tomorrow's competition. That is not a good thing. Kim Taeho chuckled and said, this fat lord is not afraid of that. No one can see through this fat lord's moves. Everyone burst out laughing. They wanted to say something, but they held it in and did not say anything. Given his shameless moves, he was not embarrassed to be so cocky. There was nothing they could say. As they drank tea and chatted, they listened to the ancient music of the high mountains and flowing rivers. This was a rare moment of leisure before a big battle. Everyone was very engrossed. Tomorrow would be the most intense elimination round in the history of the 5-nation youth competition. The 9 seeded participants would appear one by one, and the newcomers would do their best to catch up. Everyone present, other than the naive and pure Xiao Bai, could not help but feel agitated. The True Dragon ranking would only introduce the top 100 contestants. If one did not pass the second round of elimination, one would be unknown in this age of geniuses for a long time. Everyone here was an outstanding talent. Zuomo and Ding Fengqiu were among the top 70 in the previous 5-nation youth competition. If they could not even make it onto the ranking this time, they would be extremely disappointed. By sunset, everyone was already talking about sex. Kim Taeho raised his teacup and said, come, let's replace wine with tea. Let's drink a cup. If we win tomorrow, we will enter the True Dragon ranking together. Bai laughed and said, even if you go up there, you'll still be a fat dragon, not a true dragon. Fatso smiled awkwardly and said, I'm not afraid of him getting fat, as long as he's real. The few of them clinked their cups lightly and drank the tea in one gulp. After Fatso paid the bill, he led the group downstairs. However, when they reached the staircase, they ran into a group of people that no one wanted to see. The Evil Moon Pavilions by Jean was leading his disciples down the stairs. Coincidentally, they bumped into each other at the top of the stairs when they were walking towards each other. When the Evil Moon Pavilions people saw Fatso, who was leading the group, they all glared at him. They wished they could skin him alive. This was especially so for Ling Feng, who had been knocked unconscious by Kim Taeho's coffin lid. He placed his hand on his weapon and cursed, damn you, Fatso. You are really bold. You can forget about leaving today. When Xie Ziwen saw Xiao Chen in the group, he also became enraged. When he saw his first senior brother, Bai Zhan, he shouted, you are just a group of trash cultivators from the 4 nations. What do you know about drinking tea? Ignorance of tea was very strange. Cultivators were not prohibited from fighting. However, if they broke anything, they would have to pay the original price. These people mocked Xiao Chen and the others. Clearly, they wanted to provoke Xiao Chen and the others into attacking first. In that case, there would be nothing to fear. Kim Tae-ho smiled and said, "Even trash knows how to speak human." How strange. A sect that could not even block one move from this fat lord dares to speak so arrogantly. Ka Xie. When Ling Feng heard this, he could not help but draw most of his sword. However, Bai Zhan, who was in front, knocked it back with a palm strike. Bai Zhan gave Xiao Chen a deep look and said, "Let's go." Xie Ziwen and Ling Feng were stunned. They did not know why Bai Zhan let Kim Tae-ho and the others leave when there was such a good opportunity. How could they know that Bai Zhan had been severely injured by Xiao Chen in the boundless sea and had to flee? Without absolute confidence, Bai Zhan naturally would not make a move. Ding Fengqiu and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They said in bewilderment that Bai Zhan actually left. This is strange. That fellow's strength is unfathomable. He is one level higher than us. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said indifferently, "Who knows?" Naturally, one day passed very quickly. Before the sky brightened, the vast arena was already filled with people. Everyone knew that the truly exciting matches would only begin today. When the newcomer ranking came out, the 9 seeded participants appeared one by one. The 5-nation youth competition would welcome one climax after another. Missing one day of the competition would be enough to make one regret it for life. Of the 400 participants, half of them were eliminated in the first round, leaving only 200. There were 20 groups. 2 groups were randomly grouped together to form 10 groups. Each group still had 20 people. The rules of the previous round were the same. Half of the people would be eliminated. It did not seem like the elimination rate was high. At the very least, there was still a chance. However, those who passed the first round were the elites of the elites. With the 2 groups combined and the seeded participants appearing, it was easy to imagine how difficult it would be. Furthermore, only the top 100 people would be able to enter the True Dragon ranking compiled by the City Lord's residents. This was a great opportunity to make a name for oneself. Several of the participants who had hidden their strength would erupt out in this round, fighting for glory. This would make the already intense battles even more miserable. The original Group 6 and Group 10 will merge and become a new Group 5. When Xiao Chen received the notice, he could not help but recall some of the experts in Group 10. Group 10 seemed to be the group that the genius saber user, Lin Fei, was in. There were some veteran experts in that group. However, Lin Fei defeated them all, allowing him to advance with a complete victory. Furthermore, as a result, Lin Fei became a newcomer on the newcomer ranking, second only to Shen Yuan Zhantian. The seeded participants are going to choose the new group after the merger. I wonder which group Yu Chenxi will choose. Nangong Ziyue's group will merge with Group 9 to form Group 7. If he dares to accept Nangong Ziyue's challenge, he will probably choose Group 6. Yu Chenxi will definitely choose Group 7. I wonder who will choose Shenyuan Zhantian's group. Sima Lingxian is not coming out. I really want to see which seeded participant has the guts to do so. I believe no one would be so foolish as to fight Shenyuan Zhantian before the true finals. They would expose their strength too early. After the 20 groups were merged, it was time for the seeded participants to choose freely. Being able to choose freely was one of the benefits of being a seeded participant. Yu Chenxi did not disappoint the crowd. He was the first to choose Group 7, which Nangong Ziyue was in. The 2 women looked at each other from a distance. When their strong auras clashed in the air, it seemed like sparks would explode. Before they officially started fighting, they were already exchanging glances. The one who chose Xiao Chen's group was the Supreme East Sect's Gong Yangyu. Gong Yangyu's strength had always been very stable. Although he was not among the top 10, he was not weak either. Gong Yangyu's everlasting staff technique could cause wind and lightning to appear, scattering the clouds and fog. He was a genius type. He was not rash, did not take risks, and did not have many unique characteristics. He just followed the path laid out by others, walking down it without stopping. However, to everyone's surprise, the third-seeded participant, Lu Xiaoyun, chose Shenyuan Zhantian's group. Lu Xiaoyun's goal was very clear. He wanted to fight against Shenyuan Zhantian, who dared to challenge Sima Lingxian. When Bai Qi saw Lu Xiaoyun's choice, he was somewhat disappointed. He said softly, "He snatched the spot before me." After the seated participants left, only the handsome and incomparably strong Sima Lingxian remained in the spectator stands. Without needing to fight, Sima Lingxian automatically entered the True Dragon ranking. He was the only one in the past 2 years. Sima Lingxian had a calm expression, as though everything was as it should be. A strong self-confidence spread out from Sima Lingxian, giving others the impression that only he, Sima Lingxian, was qualified to sit here. This was Sima Lingxian, who stood above the masses and stood apart from them. This was Sima Lingxian. However, Xiaochen did not care about these irrelevant things. He muttered, "There are only 2 true experts in Group 5, Lin Fei and Gong Yangyu. I wonder how much of my strength they can allow me to bring out." Group 5's first match, Lin Fei vs Jian Qiushui. As time went by, the first match of Group 5 officially began. The newcomer ranking second, Lin Fei, versus the Sun-Moon Sword sect's Jian Qiushui. Jian Qiushui was a strong participant ranked 30th in the previous 5-nation youth competition. He had fought with Lin Fei before and managed to last 10 moves before being defeated. Naturally, Jian Qiushui could not improve much in one day. Without any surprises, he was defeated by Lin Fei in 7 moves. Second match, Xiaochen vs Ma Yuan. The matches passed very quickly. It was Xiaochen's turn in the second match. With a gentle push, Xiaochen floated onto the dueling ring and looked calmly at Ma Yuan. As a Divine Saber Gate elite disciple, although Ma Yuan had lost to Lin Fei, he was not convinced of his defeat. He had only lost to Lin Fei's strange saber technique. If it were any other newcomer, they would not be a match for him. He, Ma Yuan, was definitely not a stepping stone for newcomers. Ma Yuan suppressed his anger and wanted to prove his strength. When he saw the 9th-ranked Xiaochen, he immediately smiled and said, "Xiaochen, many thanks for giving me this opportunity to prove myself." Xiaochen was speechless. "You want to prove yourself? What does that have to do with me? You speak so arrogantly as though the victory is yours before the match even starts." The 9th-ranked Xiaochen vs Ma Yuan. This is going to be interesting. Originally, many people thought that there were no experts in Group 6. Xiaochen's complete victory record was overstated. I heard that many people were not satisfied with his ranking on the newcomer ranking. His match with Ma Yuan will allow us to see his true standards. We can see if he lives up to his reputation as the 9th-ranked newcomer ranking. Surprisingly, the second match of Group 5 attracted the attention of many people. Clearly, it was because of the newcomer ranking. Now, many eyes were on Xiaochen. Chapter 576. Receive my move. Blood washing the world. Ma Yuan shouted. This time, he did not use the starting stance of the Blood Shadow Saber technique. Instead, he used one of the strongest killing moves of the Blood Shadow Saber technique. Clearly, Ma Yuan was in a rush. He wanted to defeat Xiaochen in the shortest time possible, to regain the honor that he lost to Lin Fei. A scarlet light filled the air, and a killing chi spread out. Ma Yuan leaped into the air, carrying an aura that could split mountains. He contained a boundless killing intent as he headed for Xiaochen's head. Dang! Xiaochen held his saber with his left hand and did not draw it. He gently raised it and blocked this heavy saber strike. His feet did not move at all, he did not even move back a single step. Ma Yuan was momentarily distracted. How can this be? Just the killing intent of this saber strike is enough to make a regular cultivator dodge it. Its might is incomparably strong. However, Xiaochen raised his hand and blocked it. This completely surpassed Ma Yuan's expectations. That killing intent was like a muddy sea, there were no ripples at all. Xiaochen had been waiting for this opportunity. He grasped the saber hilt with his right hand and instantly drew the lunar shadow saber. The powerful massacre intent drowned out Ma Yuan's surging killing intent in an instant. The killing chi that Ma Yuan was so proud of was like a child's joke before Xiao Chen. Dang! Ma Yuan withdrew his saber to block. However, the vast essence contained in Xiao Chen's saber knocked him back. His chi and blood surged endlessly. Blood washing the world. I cannot lose. Ma Yuan shouted in his heart. He suppressed the surging chi and blood in his body and executed another move of the blood shadow saber technique at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen said softly, "You still want to make a comeback? Can you do it?" The purple crystalline chi whirlpool spun quickly in Xiao Chen's body. The surging essence gathered on the saber, and crystalline electricity appeared on the blade. Xiao Chen swept his saber across and knocked Ma Yuan back again. The killing chi of the blood shadow saber technique was broken, and its might decreased. If Ma Yuan still wanted to clash head-on with Xiao Chen, he would not have the chance. Xiao Chen shouted and took the initiative to attack while holding the lunar shadow saber. Bang, bang, bang! The saber light flickered, and the surging energy gave off a heaven-shaking roar. Xiao Chen hacked down 3 times, not giving Ma Yuan a chance to catch his breath. He directly used his powerful Yuan Qi as a foundation to break the other party's killing intent and fight it head-on. After 3 moves, the suppressed injuries in Ma Yuan's body erupted out ferociously. He vomited a mouthful of blood, his body incredibly weak. 4 moves. From the moment Xiao Chen drew his saber to the moment he sheathed it, he used only 4 moves to defeat the divine saber gate's Ma Yuan. Compared to Lin Fei's 7 saber strikes, Xiao Chen had 3 less saber strikes. This time, none of the spectating cultivators dared to object to Xiao Chen's ranking. In the dueling ring, the divine saber gate's Ma Yuan, who was lying on the ground, had an unsightly expression. Originally, he wanted to prove himself in this battle. Who knew that he would lose again? Moreover, he had been defeated so thoroughly and in such a sorry state. It was even more direct than his defeat at the hands of Lin Fei, and it made him feel even more despair. Lin Fei had defeated him in 7 moves. However, Ma Yuan believed that if it were not for that strange saber technique, Lin Fei would have needed at least 100 moves to defeat him. Ma Yuan refused to accept this, he refused to accept this at all. However, he had no choice but to accept his defeat at the hands of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen did not compete in techniques with him. Ma Yuan played with killing chi, so Xiao Chen played with killing chi. In the end, he suffered a crushing defeat. Before Ma Yuan's killing chi, it was like a child's joke. Ma Yuan wanted to clash head-on, and Xiao Chen did as he wished, clashing head-on with him. In the end, they were both small perfection half-step martial monarchs. Xiao Chen's essence was much denser than Ma Yuan's. Be it quality or quantity, Xiao Chen's essence far surpassed Ma Yuan's. 4 moves. Xiao Chen used only 4 moves, 3 less than when he lost to Lin Fei. Once again, a newcomer trampled on Ma Yuan, becoming their stumbling block. When Xiao Chen, who was preparing to get off the stage, saw Ma Yuan's disappointed expression, he felt something in his heart. He stopped and said, "You did not lose to me, you lost to yourself." The blood shadow saber technique relies on killing chi and the traceless nimbleness. However, you were too anxious. You only wanted to defeat your opponent quickly. However, you did not even bring out the surface of the blood shadow saber technique. If your heart is not steady, how can your saber techniques and martial techniques be perfect? Think about your move. Are the blood and shadows connected? There is no connection at all between the killing intent and the traceless spiritual aura. If you could cultivate it to great perfection, you would not have been defeated so miserably, even if you faced a stronger opponent. If Ma Yuan could not accept defeat at the hands of Lin Fei and Xiao Chen at the same time, it would become a demon in his heart. His progress in saber techniques would come to an end. There were too few experts famous for their saber techniques in the continent. As a bladesman, Xiao Chen did not want to see an outstanding talent of the saber technique sink into dejection like this. When the first elder of the divine saber gate in the spectator stands saw this scene, he smiled faintly and said, "This fellow is young, but his mental state is rare. I hope Ma Yuan can accept this. These two defeats might be his chance to transform from a cocoon into a butterfly." The first disciple of the divine saber gate, Li Zixuan, also nodded and said, "This person is not simple. As an outsider, he seems to have a clearer understanding of the essence of the blood shadow saber technique than us." The other newcomer in Group 5, Lin Fei, curled his lips. He said disapprovingly, "He sure knows how to act. He only defeated Ma Yuan in 4 moves. If I used my full strength, I would be able to defeat him in 3 moves." The silent-seated participant, the Supreme East Sect's Gong Yangyu, had a hard-to-detect grave look in his calm eyes. He had a vague premonition that Xiao Chen would be a strong opponent for him in Group 5. After Zhuo Mo sat down, Xiao Chen started to pay attention to the matches of the people he was familiar with. Zhuo Mo's luck was very bad. He was in the same group as Bai Zhan. In the first match, he met Bai Zhan. It seemed like Bai Zhan's attacks were very heavy due to Zhuo Mo's relationship with Xiao Chen. He did not seem to be in a rush to defeat Zhuo Mo. Bai Zhan continued to grind Zhuo Mo down. Occasionally, he would purposely reveal some small openings, letting Zhuo Mo think that he still had a chance and would not admit defeat. As time went by, Zhuo Mo's injuries worsened. When he finally realized that he had no chance of defeating Bai Zhan laughed maniacally. He sent out both palms. One palm was like an erupting volcano, surging with heat waves. The other palm was like drifting snow, bone-chilling. The combination of ice and fire entered Zhuo Mo's body, causing his face to alternate between red and white. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth like a fountain. Before Zhuo Mo could admit defeat, Bai Zhan beat him until he lost all ability to continue fighting. Zhuo Mo was completely crippled for the day. He could only withdraw from the competition and forever lose the chance to enter the True Dragon ranking. After defeating Zhuo Mo, Bai Zhan's lips curled up in a cold smile. He looked at Xiao Chen with a sinister gaze. Bai Zhan was silently telling Xiao Chen that he was doing this on purpose. While he was tormenting his friend, he was also using this match to disrupt Xiao Chen's mental state and weaken his strength. A dense murderous intent flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. However, his heart was as calm as still water. If Bai Zhan wanted to disrupt his mental state, then he would be gravely mistaken. Not only would Bai Zhan's actions not achieve the effect he wanted, but they would also bring him an inescapable calamity. This was because he had thoroughly angered Xiao Chen. The seated participant, Gong Yangyu, is coming out. Soft cries came from behind, pulling Xiao Chen back from his thoughts. He looked up and saw that Gong Yangyu was already standing in the dueling ring of Group 5, holding a staff in his hand. The staff was about 1 meter long and greenish-purple in color. It was taller than Gong Yangyu by a head. Black patterns were drawn on the surface of the staff, making the entire staff seem very heavy. Gong Yangyu's opponent was a male disciple from the Haotian sect. His name was Gao Jian, and he used a rarely seen large axe. He walked the same path as Gong Yangyu, using large and bold moves. As disciples of the 10 great sects, the two of them seemed to have known each other for a long time. Gao Jian knew that he could not defeat Gong Yangyu. He smiled gently and said, "Brother Gong Yangyu, please show mercy." Gong Yangyu said softly, "In that case, don't overdo it." Gong Yangyu did not put on the airs of an expert. After he spoke, he spun the staff around with one hand. A strong wind blew, causing Gao Jian to squint. Boom! Boom! Amid the strong wind, 2 claps of thunder resounded. When the third clap of thunder rang out, Gong Yangyu's feet moved. Wind and thunder roared. This staff strike carried the momentum of wind and thunder as it headed straight for the root of the problem. It was clearly just a simple action, but Gong Yangyu's hands were like wind and thunder. He looked very imposing, giving off the air of a great grandmaster. Gao Jian shouted and lowered his feet. He lowered his center of gravity, using the tenacity of an old tree's roots. He grasped the huge axe with both hands and swung it ferociously. Bang! The axe struck the top of the staff, creating a strong shockwave. An intense whirlwind formed around the two of them, rising up. Bang! 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 Gao Jian's foundation was solid, so his move was very ordinary. However, he did not have enough strength. The surging electric light on the tip of the staff forced him back a few steps. Gong Yangyu had a very serious expression. He did not have any intention of underestimating his opponent. He quickly took 7 steps to the side, leaving behind an afterimage with each step. The 7 afterimages held wooden staffs and used different moves. At a glance, it looked like 7 people swinging their staffs at the same time. Xiao! When the 7 afterimages merged, the staff in Gong Yangyu's hand moved at an unimaginable angle, piercing through Gao Jian's hands and the huge axe. Then, it pointed at Gao Jian's forehead. As long as Xiao Qin used a little more force, Gong Yangyu's staff would be able to pierce through Gao Jian's head. Who? Gong Yangyu withdrew his hand and spun his staff around before placing it behind him. He said softly, "Thank you for going easy on me." Gao Jian laughed bitterly, and without saying a word, he jumped off the ring. How powerful! Exactly how did that last staff strike come out? I simply did not manage to see it clearly. Gong Yangyu's strength is rather stable. Compared to 3 years ago, he has improved significantly. A seated participant is indeed extraordinary. With just 2 simple moves, he is clearly different from the other newcomers. After watching Gong Yangyu's match, the nearby cultivators could not help but sigh in admiration. Aside from strength, many of them saw something else. Gong Yangyu's moves were not very shocking. At the very least, they were not as exquisite as Lin Fei's strange saber technique. However, for some reason, the crowd felt that Gong Yangyu was very strong, even stronger than Lin Fei. Xiao Qin smiled faintly. With one glance, he could see through the logic behind this. It was all about accumulations. In Xiao Chen's previous life, Lin Fei would have been a nouveau riche. He would be stunning and overbearing, showing off his sharpness. As for Gong Yangyu, he had been famous for a long time. His sharpness was withdrawn, forming a unique aura. After some time, he might become a grandmaster of the staff Dao. Chapter 577. Of course, who was stronger and who was weaker would only be known after a real fight. One could say that the nouveau riche was ostentatious, but one could not look down on the nouveau riche's strength. Naturally, the genius saber Lin Fei heard the discussions of the crowd. He revealed a disdainful smile and said, "All of you like to pretend. Wait until I trample all of you under my feet. Let's see what else you can say then." In the following matches, Lin Fei seemed to be competing with Xiao Chen. He used only 3 moves to defeat his opponent in every match, no matter how strong his opponent was. That elusive earth vein saber technique appeared in the dueling ring once again, one on the ground and one in the sky. Lin Fei clearly only had the strength of 1 saber strike, but he sent out 2 strands of saber chi. Furthermore, they came from tricky angles and were hard to defend against. Lin Fei immediately became the focus of the dueling ring for Group 5. He was the most discussed person in the crowd. They were all astonished at the strength he displayed. Lin Fei's fame surpassed that of Xiao Chen, even suppressing Gong Yangyu. Ha ha! Interesting. Xiao Chen used 4 moves to defeat Ma Yuan. Then, Lin Fei ran into Ma Yuan. In the end, he only used 3 moves. This Ma Yuan is really unlucky. It looks like this Lin Fei is purposely trying to fight with Xiao Chen. He only used 3 moves against each opponent, just 1 less than Xiao Chen. He is a youngster, after all. This is what they fight for. One is the 2nd rank of the newcomer ranking list, and the other is the 9th. He definitely does not want Xiao Chen to suppress him. I feel that he is too flashy. What is the point of fighting for this? We will know who is stronger after a match. The crowd discussed. Most of them praised Lin Fei, but there were also a few who did not, feeling that he was too flashy. However, no matter what, most of them acknowledged Lin Fei's strength. They felt that he was fully deserving of the second rank of the newcomer ranking list. Xiao Chen did not feel anything about this. He only cared about defeating the opponents before him. When he met an interesting opponent, he would feel excited. Not only would he not end the match quickly, but he would also slowly savor the opponent's moves, trying to figure out what was so special about them. Only when Xiao Chen met an opponent with a huge gap in strength would he feel that it was a waste of time. Following one's nature, following one's heart, the saber moved according to one's heart. The heart was like a heavenly steed soaring through the sky, and the saber was like a ghost's axe. There were many heroes in the world. In the world that Xiao Chen came from, there was an ancient sage who once said, "When three people walk together, there is always someone to learn from." Even the weakest opponent would have some shining points that were worth learning. The five-nation youth competition was a rare opportunity to gather all the heroes of the world. This was a good opportunity to broaden one's horizons and improve oneself. Victory was very important, but what was more important was the continuous improvement of one's own accumulation and the continuous expansion of one's horizons. When everything accumulated to a certain extent, it would explode with a bang, producing an extremely terrifying amount of energy. Gong Yangyu, who had become famous long ago, did not watch many spectacular battles. He was not as ferocious as Lin Fei. However, he had not lost a single match. Furthermore, his strength was not bottomed out. In his eyes, he smiled slightly, not taking this matter to heart at all. Next match, Xiao Chen vs Gong Yangyu. The true battles between the experts of Group 5 finally began at this moment. Some of the cultivators who had been paying attention to the other arenas all looked over. Their eyes were filled with impatience. Although Xiao Chen's progress was startling, everyone was very curious about him. They wanted to know how strong Xiao Chen was and how far he could go in the end. As for Gong Yangyu's strength, it went without saying. He was a veteran expert. Gong Yangyu became famous at a young age, and he fought steadily. In the previous five-nation youth competition, he established his position. He became a giant of the younger generation. His talent was astonishing, and he had the backing of a super sect. Such a person did not need many words to describe him. Gong Yangyu was a giant of the younger generation, someone who could compete with Bai Qi, Lu Xiaoyun, and the Eight Noble Scions. Group 5's competition is finally going to welcome a match of sufficient importance. The rookie Xiao Chen against the giant Gong Yangyu. It is time for Xiao Chen's consecutive victories to come to an end. With the appearance of the seeded participants, the other rookies' consecutive victories also came to an end. At the hands of the giants, they lost their legend of invincibility. That's right. Although the rookies are strong, the time given to them is too short. Compared to the veteran experts, they are only so-so. Before the attention of the crowd, the two calmly walked into the arenas. Their expressions did not change much. Lin Fei stared at the two of them. A flame burned in his eyes, clearly filled with a strong fighting spirit. He thought to himself, my two greatest opponents actually met early. This time, luck is on my side. I am Xiao Chen of the Great Qin Nation's Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Please give me some pointers. I am Gong Yangyu of the Great Qin Nation's Supreme East Sect. Please give me some pointers. After Gong Yangyu performed a cupped fist salute, he gently spun the wooden staff in his hand. He grasped the end of the staff and pointed it at Xiao Chen. He was not in a rush to attack. Xiao Chen took 2 steps back and tilted his body slightly. He placed his right hand on the saber hilt and focused his gaze on the tip of his opponent's staff, forming a straight line with it. Who? The two's auras clashed in the air, forming a chaotic wind blowing everywhere. The cool breeze blew back Xiao Chen's hair, revealing his delicate face with a blue bandage tied around it. His expression was as calm as before, not showing any nervousness from the impending battle. Since there were no openings in Xiao Chen's aura, he could only create openings. In the first place, Gong Yangyu had not intended to find openings in Xiao Chen's aura. He raised his staff and took the initiative to attack. His feet instantly moved. With one step, he brandished his staff and a strong wind blew. A clear afterimage of Gong Yangyu appeared on the ground. With 2 steps, Gong Yangyu pointed his staff at Xiao Chen. Thunder roared in the wind and he left another afterimage on the ground. With 3 steps, a strong wind blew and thunder roared. When Gong Yangyu swung his staff, wind and thunder roared. Gong Yangyu's afterimage leaped high into the air. He held his staff with one hand and smashed it down on Xiao Chen's head. Gong Yangyu took 3 steps forward. With each step, he executed a move. With each step, his aura soared. By the final step, his aura had already reached its peak. The might of that staff contained the speed of a strong wind and the roar of thunder. In just 3 short steps, his aura had already reached such a horrifying level. Furthermore, that was not all. The first 2 steps were not as simple as just an afterimage. When Xiao Chen saw this clearly, he thought to himself, it is just a simple staff move, but it has many tricks up its sleeves. Just as the staff was about to reach Xiao Chen's head, Xiao Chen moved. He drew his lunar shadow saber by 3 centimeters and blocked this heavy staff strike with a bang. When the 2 extremely powerful forces collided, a powerful energy immediately burst forth. Circles of invisible ripples dispersed, and there seemed to be creases appearing in the space. Shockwaves surged and strong winds howled. No one noticed that 7 cool breezes appeared behind Xiao Chen, gently drifting into the distance. Creating something from nothing. Break! Gong Yangyu shouted and the 2 afterimages behind him merged back together. His originally exhausted staff strike now had 2 new forces hidden within it. Each wave was stronger than the one before, surging over like a tidal wave. Gong Yangyu shouted, and the 2 afterimages merged back together. Gong Yangyu's staff strike contained the power of wind and lightning. Each wave was stronger than the last, surging over like a tidal wave. The referee in the wind cloud platform nodded slightly. He thought to himself, it looks like Gong Yangyu's attainments in the Supreme East Sect's everlasting staff technique have already surpassed some of the elders in the sect. Boom! The surging energy carried the power of wind and lightning. Bang! It shattered Xiao Chen, who was still standing, into pieces. When the wooden staff landed on the ground, it immediately created a crack that extended continuously. Strands of dragon chi spread out from the crack. Dragon roars came from the wind cloud platform. Winds blew, clouds churned, and the sky changed color. The cultivators and the spectator stands all sucked in a breath of cold air. How strong was this staff strike for it to be able to create a crack in the wind cloud platform? Even the dragon chi leaked out. However, Gong Yangyu frowned tightly. He withdrew his staff and muttered, "Clone." The strong wind stopped and the dust scattered. Gong Yangyu looked up and saw 7 figures of Xiao Chen at the edge of the arena. He had only drawn his lunar shadow saber by 3 centimeters, but now, he had drawn it all. The referee in the arena opened his eyes wide. He thought to himself in astonishment, when did he change moves? Unexpectedly, I did not notice it. Roar! Roar! Accompanied by dragon roars, the 7 figures turned into cool breezes. Their weapons did not appear, and their killing intent was hidden. 7 cool breezes blew at Gong Yangyu, carrying traces of gentleness. Cool breeze, only seeing the cool breeze and not the saber. Gong Yangyu had a grave expression. The gentle breeze could not bring him any warmth at all. The staff moved around like a flood dragon, dancing up and down, kicking up a boundless strong wind. Gong Yangyu took 7 steps back. With each step, he left behind an afterimage. Thunder roared in the sky. Dang! 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 Before the cultivators in the spectator stands could react, 7 buzzing sounds came from the wind cloud platform. The sounds were ear-splitting, and the sound waves were like thunder. They passed through the wind cloud barrier and reached the ears of the crowd. They felt their eardrums tremble and some pain. Everyone was horrified, feeling fear in their hearts. If not for the wind cloud barrier, everyone would have temporarily lost their hearing. How strong were these two monsters? Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations, merge. Everlasting 100 transformations, merge. The two shouted at the same time. In that instant, Xiao Chen's clone and Gong Yangyu's afterimages merged. This staff strike carried the peak state of wind and thunder. Using the power of the 7 afterimages, it tore through space like a tall mountain, chopping down ferociously. Heavy momentum. What was heavy momentum? This staff strike was heavy momentum. Strong winds howled and thunder roared. Wind and thunder roared together. The thunder used the might of the wind to materialize a boundless aura. Heavy force. Every afterimage of the everlasting staff technique was Gong Yangyu's peak attack. Now that the 7 afterimages merged, Gong Yangyu's attack power increased by 7 times. A threefold increase in attack power could tear apart the wind cloud platform and cause Dragon Chi to soar into the clouds. Winds blew, clouds churned, and the sky changed color. In that case, what about a 7-fold increase in attack power? Gong Yangyu was very strong. However, how could Xiao Chen be any weaker? The killing intent from earlier exploded out the instant the 7 afterimages merged. The sharp killing intent turned into a boundless sea of blood. The air in the wind cloud platform seemed to solidify. Gong Yangyu's staff strike, which contained a boundless aura, slowed under the obstruction of this killing intent. When the cultivators in the spectator stands saw the scarlet air in the wind cloud platform far away, they all felt their hearts palpitate. It was easy to imagine what kind of pressure Gong Yangyu, who was locked down by the killing intent, was enduring. Chapter 578. However, this is not enough, far from enough. You have the peak state of wind and thunder, allowing the thunder to borrow the might of the wind to materialize a boundless aura, using it to suppress others. I also have the state of thunder. Furthermore, it is stronger and more ruthless than yours. Why would I fear your boundless aura, afraid of you using it to suppress others? At Thunder Emperor Valley, Xiao Chen had obtained the inheritance of the Thunder King's immortal will of thunder. At this moment, Xiao Chen completely unleashed his state of thunder. The peak consummation state of thunder that contained a trace of immortal mixed with the peak state of massacre. An extremely horrifying scarlet lightning formed on the long saber. The crystal chi whirlpool in Xiao Chen's body spun wildly, making the scarlet lightning look even more strange and terrifying. Boom! The instant the two's afterimages and clones merged, the wooden staff and saber quickly clashed. A loud sound resounded. Everyone's ears, which were previously tortured by the sound waves, temporarily lost their ability to hear. Only some of the stronger cultivators survived. Roar! 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 On the ground, cracks spread out on the wind cloud platform under the two. Dragon Chi poured out continuously. Dragon roars resounded without end. The thick clouds in the sky could not help but churn. Bang! 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 The two quickly retreated backward. Blood leaked out of the corners of their mouths. Clearly, they had suffered some internal injuries. Xiao Chen took 10 steps back before he could stand stably. As for Gong Yangyu, he took 15 steps back before he managed to stand stably. His expression was even more unsightly than Xiao Chen's. One did not cultivate the physical body, and the other had a strong physical body. When faced with an evenly matched opponent, it was clear who suffered the most damage. Gong Yangyu wiped off the blood from the corner of his lips and revealed a faint smile. He said, "Since I reached great perfection in the everlasting staff technique, no one in the same generation has been able to defeat me in offensive power. You are the first." Xiao Chen gently brandished the lunar shadow saber and smiled faintly. "You are the same. With my state of thunder and state of massacre combined with the 6th layer of the purple thunder divine incantation, you are the only one who can stand and speak." As the dragon roars resounded, the two of them appreciated each other and faced each other calmly. However, they did not have much ambition for victory. They appeared calm and indifferent. This battle was just a martial arts competition. Bang! Gong Yangyu held his staff and waved it around. thunder rumbled and a strong wind blew. Then, he stomped heavily on the ground. His aura quickly gathered and he shouted, again. Everlasting mirage. Gong Yangyu brandished his long and heavy staff up and down. In the blink of an eye, he created 3 afterimages. Each afterimage had a different aura. One was like a flood dragon roaring ferociously, ruling the world, one was like a golden snake soaring like lightning, one was like an eagle spreading its wings, breaking through the clouds. The afterimages turned into 3 arcs and quickly flew at Xiao Chen. The instant they got close, the 3 afterimages merged and hacked down with the staff containing the 3 auras. Xiao Chen raised his saber and placed his left hand on the saber. Then, he quickly slid it upwards. A scarlet wukue flower bloomed under his feet. When his finger brushed the tip of the saber, the scarlet flower bud suddenly closed up. Bang! The long rod struck the flower bud, causing cracks to appear on the ground. However, the blood-colored flower bud did not change much. This move was Xiao Chen's strongest defensive move. The might of this saber technique would also increase as his state of thunder and state of massacre increased. Now, it was enough to defend against an attack from a cultivator of the same generation. Wukui blossoms. Within the flower bud, Xiao Chen formed hand seals and the scarlet flower bud immediately bloomed. It produced a strong explosive force and knocked back Gong Yangyu, who was preparing to send out a second staff strike. The flower petals filled the air and danced in the wind. Xiao Chen leaped out of the flower bud and used the strange force of the flower petals to increase his speed. Then, he chased after Gong Yangyu. When Gong Yangyu faced Xiao Chen, whose speed had increased by 20%, he was somewhat astonished. He did not compete with Xiao Chen in speed. Gong Yangyu did not move from his original spot amid the flower petals. However, the staff in his hand moved continuously. He used the everlasting mirage to materialize all sorts of auras, blocking all of Xiao Chen's attacks. However, if one defended for too long, one would lose. Xiao Chen had the advantage of speed in the flower petals. Furthermore, he had the state of massacre and state of thunder. No one could block him forever. Naturally, Gong Yangyu understood this principle. His face sank and he decided to cut off all means of retreat, deciding victory in one move. Gong Yangyu smiled bitterly to himself. Although he had expected that the white-robed bladesman before him would be a strong opponent, he had not expected this person to be so difficult to deal with. However, he didn't expect that this person would be so difficult to deal with. Under his almost heaven-defying attack power, he was actually able to block it. The various auras that the everlasting phantom had manifested were also offset by the speed advantage of this strange petal. Now, Gong Yangyu was forced to use the killing move that he had used to deal with the 8 noble clan scions. Tossing heaven and earth. Suddenly, Gong Yangyu shouted ferociously and the staff in his hand spun rapidly. His aura soared. An irresistible strong wind blew, and the flower petals in the air immediately scattered and fell to the ground. Heaven as the sky, Kun as the earth. Using the power of the earth and the might of the sky, tossing heaven and earth. As the staff spun, Gong Yangyu's aura soared continuously. When his aura reached its peak, the staff in his hand flew at Xiao Chen without needing to be moved. The instant the staff left his hand, Gong Yangyu's complexion paled. He had spent too much effort on this move. If he still could not defeat Xiao Chen, he could only admit defeat. Tossing heaven and earth, this move that Gong Yangyu had spent all his effort on was incredibly strong. To dare to use the might of the sky and use the power of the earth, this was not something that just anyone could do. Chi! Chi! All the energy gathered at the tip of the staff. Then, the blurry space around the staff scattered. In the end, a black dot appeared in space like a piece of white paper. A tiny crack appeared in space. With a swoosh, the wooden stick pierced through the void. This stick actually shattered the void. Although it was only a small crack, it had indeed opened the void. All the cultivators in the spectator stands opened their mouths wide in shock. Even Lin Fei was shocked. A strange look flashed in the eyes of Sima Lingxian, who was in the seated spectator stands. He muttered, tossing heaven and earth. Not bad. With this move, Gong Yangyu will be able to advance a few steps in this 5-nation youth competition. Even space shattered. This is something only a martial monarch can do. How did Gong Yangyu do it? That is tossing heaven and earth, the inherited secret technique of the Supreme sect. Its offensive power is incomparably strong. Unexpectedly, Gong Yangyu managed to practice it. However, he is far from being able to use it as he pleases. Xiao Chen is going to lose. This move shatters space and disappears without a trace. There is no way to dodge it, he will not be able to dodge it. Several of the cultivators in the spectator stands felt it was a pity. It looked like Xiao Chen was about to use his strength as a newcomer to turn the tables on a giant. Who knew that Gong Yangyu would suddenly make such a move? Even several inferior-grade martial monarchs who comprehended quintessence would not be able to block it. How could Xiao Chen block it with his small perfection half-step martial monarch cultivation? Up in the air, Xiao Chen had a grave expression. He did not panic like the crowd expected. If Xiao Chen were only a half-step martial monarch, even if he cultivated a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, he would be severely injured if he forcefully blocked this move. At best, this match would end in a draw. However, Xiao Chen was different. Aside from his vast cultivation, his physical body was not much weaker than Bai Lishi's. With the aid of the firmament body tempering art, he was not much weaker than a great perfection physical body cultivator like Bai Lishi. Just with the strength of his physical body, Xiao Chen's punch could reach 600,000 kilograms. If he merged his essence and vital qi, his punch could reach 500,000 kilograms. Even Bai Lishi could not achieve that. Ka Xie. The instant the wooden staff shattered space, Xiao Chen sheathed it. Then, he casually tossed the lunar shadow saber high into the air. What is he doing? Is he seeking death? All the cultivators in the spectator stands asked suspiciously. All the vital qi in Xiao Chen's body surged. The firmament body tempering art and the purple thunder divine incantation surged at the same time. Essence and vital qi instantly merged, forming a strong force. Xiao Chen's entire body surged. A crackling sound like frying beans came from Xiao Chen's body. Pooh! Suddenly, a small hole appeared in space 1 meter in front of Xiao Chen. Half of the thick and heavy black wooden staff appeared and smashed towards his face. The force on the tip of the staff was too great. The moment it appeared, it brought with it a gust of wind that blew towards Xiao Chen. The wind contained a strong force, and when it struck Xiao Chen's body, it was like many blades slicing at him. Several small tears appeared on the clear wind robes, turning them into tatters. However, when the wind blades struck Xiao Chen's skin, they gave off ping-ping sounds like they were hitting steel. Berserk Dragon Stance, retreat for me. Xiao Chen shouted and clenched his right hand into a fist. The vast, ocean-like force in his body instantly surged over. When Xiao Chen punched, a dragon roar resounded. This dragon roar was very piercing. It immediately suppressed the dragon roar coming from the dragon qi underground. An azure dragon head appeared on the tip of his fist. Xiao Chen did not show any fear as he smashed his fist against the tip of the staff. Bang! A horrifying sound rang out. Cracks appeared on the wind cloud platform again. Boundless dragon qi poured out. The dragon roar resounded endlessly in the strong wind. Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood and took 10 steps back in midair. The wooden staff that contained the power of the world actually took a small step back before the crowd's astonished gazes. How can this be? The tossing heaven and earth was actually knocked back. When the cultivators in the spectator stands saw this shocking scene, they could not help but stand up. However, Sima Lingxian said indifferently, the power of the world is long-lasting. How can it be knocked back so easily? Indeed, the heavy wooden staff that had been knocked back by half a meter flew out of the air a moment later, carrying an even stronger power of the world, heading for Xiao Chen. A bright light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He said, "So, that's how it is." Again. When facing the incoming staff, Xiao Chen did not hesitate to circulate all the energy in his body. Then, he sent out another berserk dragon fist. The power of the world flowed like a river from the tip of the staff towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen vomited a large mouthful of blood. However, he did not care. He clenched his left fist and punched again in an instant. Chapter 579. Bang! 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 Sounds even louder than thunder resounded continuously. Using his own strength, Xiao Chen merged his vital qi and essence as he clashed with the wooden staff that carried the power of the world. The world spun around, and the entire wind cloud arena started shaking. Before everyone's astonished gazes, Xiao Chen blocked the unparalleled sharpness and unparalleled might of the tossing heaven and earth technique. Xiao Chen's qi and blood surged, and wounds appeared in his internal organs. However, his expression remained calm. If I want to win, I have to be ruthless. I have to be more ruthless than my enemy and even more ruthless to myself. Xiao Chen only had one thought in his heart: to keep attacking, to keep attacking. If you use the power of the heavens, I will shatter the heavens with one punch. If you use the power of the earth, I will shatter the earth with one punch. The heavens, the earth, cannot stop me. Xiao Chen shouted ferociously, and the 24 acupoints on his hands opened. 2 blue dragon tattoos slowly surged, and the might of the berserk dragon fist increased by another 20%. Xiao Chen moved his fists as fast as lightning, no afterimages could be seen. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, a total of 81 punches. Xiao Chen's complexion was already so pale that it was devoid of blood. The wooden staff that carried the power of the world finally exploded with a bang. Wooden shavings filled the air, containing the boundless power of the world. They formed a horrifying shock wave. Xiao Chen, who could not react in time, crashed into the wind cloud barrier. Xiao Chen suppressed the injuries in his body and stomped heavily on the wind cloud barrier. As the shock wave surged, Xiao Chen's tattered white robes fluttered like catkin. He gently waved his left hand, and the lunar shadow saber in the air returned to his grasp. Xiao Chen turned around slightly and landed on the ground. He drew his saber and placed the pitch-black saber on the defenseless Gong Yangyu's neck. Xiao Chen's long hair, which had long been disheveled, fluttered in the strong wind. His tattered clear wind robes flapped noisily, giving the originally delicate and pretty Xiao Chen a wild and unruly temperament. Under martial monarch, who dared to fight against heaven and earth alone? Not only did Xiao Chen dare to fight, but he also miraculously emerged victorious. Even inferior grade martial monarchs did not dare to receive the tossing heaven and earth head-on. Just like that, Gong Yangyu of the Supreme East sect was defeated. He was defeated by a bladesman who was only ranked 9th on the newcomer ranking list. Furthermore, he had been defeated in such a decisive manner, without the slightest bit of underhandedness or trickery. This battle had been full of twists and turns. The spectators were overwhelmed with emotions. Now that it had ended so quickly, the cultivators in the spectator stands had yet to recover their wits. After forcefully executing the tossing heaven and earth, Gong Yangyu's mind was already extremely weak. Furthermore, his final move had been forcefully broken by Xiao Chen, adding injuries to his previous injuries. He was now extremely weak. When Gong Yangyu saw the cold saber on his neck, he revealed a bitter smile. He raised his right hand and slowly pushed the saber to the side. He said, "Gong Yangyu is not skilled enough. Many thanks for your guidance." A defeat was a defeat. Gong Yangyu appeared very carefree. He did not make any excuses. After saying that he was not skilled enough, he smiled bitterly and walked off the arena. Gong Yangyu was defeated. The 9th-ranked Supreme E-Sect giant of the previous 5-nation youth competition had lost to a newcomer. In the spectator stands, several cultivators were still savoring the details of the battle. When they saw Gong Yangyu's somewhat desolate figure, they realized that Gong Yangyu had been defeated. In this 5-nation youth competition, Xiao Chen was the first person to defeat a youth giant. Furthermore, he was a newcomer participating in the competition for the first time. There are many strong people. I originally thought that Gong Yangyu would end Xiao Chen's winning streak. Who knew that Gong Yangyu would become Xiao Chen's stepping stone, allowing Xiao Chen's fame to soar? Even Gong Yangyu is not a match for him. In that case, who can end his winning streak? Can only the geniuses of the 8 noble clans do it? That is hard to say. Xiao Chen has not fought with Lin Fei yet. Lin Fei has only revealed the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps Lin Fei can defeat Xiao Chen. Ha ha. In that case, do you think that Xiao Chen used his full power? When the cultivators in the spectator stands saw Xiao Chen get off the arena, they all had a different opinion of Xiao Chen's strength. They now viewed him as a giant of the younger generation. In this most dazzling 5-nation youth competition, Xiao Chen possessed the strength to rank within the top 10. He was only inferior to Bai Qi, Sima Lingxian, and Xianyuan Zhantian. Xiao Chen might even have a good chance of getting into the top 5, becoming the most dazzling dark horse in this 5-nation youth competition. The dazzling Xiao Chen returned to his spectator stand, feeling extremely fatigued. He immediately sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to treat his injuries. Xiao Chen had suffered significant internal injuries in this battle. It would be an exaggeration to say that he had suffered 800 casualties. However, he had still suffered 500 casualties. Don't move. I'll personally treat your injuries. A gentle voice came from behind. It was the half-sage of Jade Maiden Peak, Shen Manjun. She had personally made a move, using her own cultivation to treat Xiao Chen's injuries. Jade Maiden Peak was the peak of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's alchemy peak. Shen Manjun was an ancient figure of Jade Maiden Peak. Her treatment was much faster than Xiao Chen's. Xiao Chen did not show any intention of stopping her. He allowed her vast quintessence to slowly pour into his body. There were still many tough battles to fight. Naturally, it would be for the best if a senior helped him. As for Gong Yangyu, he received better treatment than Xiao Chen. A few Supreme Sect inner sect elders worked together to treat his injuries. His recovery was much faster than Xiao Chen's. After 15 minutes, Shen Manjun withdrew her hand and gently wiped the sweat off her forehead. She smiled and said, "Cultivators who cultivate the physical body are indeed different. Even with such heavy injuries, you can recover so quickly." Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood and immediately felt much better. He turned his head and said, "Many thanks to Marshal Grand Uncle for helping me." Xiao Chen is very grateful. Jiang Qi, who was at the side, laughed loudly and said, "Xiao Chen, there is no need to be so polite. Just focus on the competition." The fact that Xiao Chen could defeat Gong Yangyu had far surpassed Jiang Qi's expectations. Originally, he only wanted Xiao Chen to rank within the top 50, allowing the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to bask in the limelight of this great age. However, now, Jiang Qi could no longer see through Xiao Chen's potential. The pleasant surprise that Xiao Chen brought him was simply unimaginable. The nearby Great Qin Nation cultivators looked in the direction of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Their gazes were filled with envy. After this 5-nation youth competition, it was clear that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would rise up. Shen Manjun said seriously, "Although your physique is much stronger than regular cultivators, you still have some hidden injuries. Remember to deal with them after the competition ends." Xiao Chen nodded to indicate that he understood. Naturally, he could not completely recover from his injuries in such a short time. In the distance, Lin Fei, who had just defeated his opponent, looked at Xiao Chen, who was resting with his eyes closed. Lin Fei grasped his saber's hilt tightly with his right hand, and a strong fighting spirit burned in his eyes. He said, "You have a winning streak. Even Gong Yangyu lost to you. It is only interesting to defeat such an opponent." Lin Fei did not know what trump cards he had, but he was still very confident when facing Xiao Chen, who had displayed great strength. He did not show any fear at all. In the spectator stands for the seated participants, Sima Lingxian glanced at Xiao Chen. Then, he silently repeated Xiao Chen's name. "White-robed bladesman, Xiao Chen." Very good. In this 5-nation youth competition, there is another person that I will remember. I only remember your name. That does not mean that you have the strength to fight me. That is all. A strong self-confidence spread in Sima Lingxuan's heart. He smiled faintly and closed his eyes again. The Bai clan's scion, Bai Qi, was the leader of the young bladesmen under the starry heavens. When he saw Xiao Qin defeat Gong Yangyu, a fiery light burned in his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "First, there is Lin Fei. Now, there is Xiao Qin. This lifeless world of bladesmen finally has a few new talents." With all the seated participants taking the stage, the second round of eliminations did not lack highlights. The moment Xiao Chen's and Gong Yangyu's match ended, everyone's attention shifted to another match. That was the dueling ring of Group 1. There were many experts in the group that the top newcomer, Xianyuan Zhantian, was in. Aside from Xianyuan Zhantian, there were also many personal disciples of the 10 great sects in this group. It was known as the Group of Death. The Drifting Snow Sword sect's Lu Xiaoyun chose this group. He wanted to challenge the top newcomer, Xianyuan Zhantian, and trample him to the ground. At this moment, the matches in Group 1 were very exciting. They were no weaker than Xiao Chen's and Gong Yanyu's match. However, the main characters were not Lu Xiaoyun and Xianyuan Zhantian. Lu Xiaoyun's opponent was a swordsman from the Great Qin nation, a swordsman who seemed to be very low profile. Even though this swordsman was ranked third on the newcomer ranking list and had an unending string of victories, his battles did not attract much attention. Compared to Lin Fei, who was also a newcomer, he was far from being the center of attention. This was because every one of Lin Fei's victories was too ordinary. There was nothing astonishing about them, giving others the impression that he was just that ordinary. Now that Lin Fei met Lu Xiaoyun, the defeat that everyone expected did not happen. Although they were both swordsmen, Lin Fei's sword intent and sword techniques were no weaker than Lu Xiaoyun's. That ordinary swordsmanship suddenly became incomparably exquisite in the eyes of the crowd. Every move was extremely gorgeous, and it shocked everyone, causing them to click their tongues in admiration. There was a kind of person in this world who did not shine with dazzling light and attract everyone's attention. It was not because his light was dim and unnoticeable. Instead, it was because his light was too dazzling. Regular leaves would not be able to bring out his strength. One could only wait for a suitable leaf to appear. Only then did the crowd discover how beautiful that fresh flower was. That light shone brightly, spreading for thousands of kilometers. Without a doubt, Chu Chaoyun was such a person. Up until now, no one had noticed his brilliance because his opponents were not even qualified to be his supporting characters. Chu Chaoyun's handsome face always had a calm expression. He brandished his sword, breaking all of Lu Xiaoyun's killing moves with every move. Chong! 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 The sound of weapons clashing rang out and sparks flew. Lu Xiaoyun's attack was thwarted again. His figure flickered back a few times and he could not help but increase the force in his right hand. Lu Xiaoyun frowned heavily as he looked at his opponent. Clearly, he had not expected there to be such a difficult person in Group 1. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.